Donuts daily, like sour cream cake donuts, bear claws, apple fritters, old-fashioned buttermilk cake donuts, and the amazing maple bacon long john. Fresh, delicious daylight donuts and great coffee, espresso, cappuccino, lattes, and frappes. Daylight Donuts.
The owners of El Cactus in Coralville are excited to announce a second, bigger restaurant now open in Iowa City. Introducing El Senor Cactus on South Gilbert Street, the site of the old Aldi's. Family owned and operated, El Senor Cactus serves the delicious and authentic Mexican dishes you know and love, complete with homemade chips and salsa and the tastiest margaritas in town. Visit the new El Senor Cactus in Iowa City, open 7 days a week for lunch and dinner, located just south of Highway 6 on Gilbert Street.
If your wedding band no longer sparkles, visit Diamond Leaf Jewelers for a repair or restoration. We work with jewelry and watches of all brands and periods and specialize in getting your pieces looking and feeling like new. We can even breathe new life into those loose stones or unworn pieces by creating new jewelry that you'll love to wear again. Jewelry cleaning and inspections are always free, no matter when or where your piece is from. Located in Coralville's Iowa River Landing, or visit us online at diamondleafjewelers.com or on Facebook for photos and inspiration from previous restorations, custom work, and other beautiful pieces.
Think about the last time you had your car worked on, the diagnostics, the suggested repairs, the service. Did you leave feeling good about the entire experience? If the answer is no, you need to call Harapot Auto on Rupert Road. Friendly and straightforward, Harapot Auto has a sterling reputation built over 30 years of service. Gary will give you his honest opinion on what repairs are needed versus what can wait. He'll figure out the best options for both your safety and budget. The next time you need a repair or routine maintenance, call Harapot Auto at 338-6223.
Hi, I'm Leah Cohen, inviting you to join us at Bo James in downtown Iowa City. Our grill is fired up and ready to serve all the great Hawkeye fans. Whether it's a big-ass beer or a burger basket, Bo James is open, morning, noon, and night, with a full-service menu. You'll love the burgers. Great food, great staff. Come see us. Bo James, downtown Iowa City.
This is Barry Westmeyer, owner of Westport Touchless Auto Wash in Iowa City and Coralville. Hi, Augie. Old Man Winter does terrible things to your car. At Westport Touchless Auto Wash, we help minimize the damage that Old Man Winter causes. That's right, Augie. At Westport Touchless Auto Wash, we remove all of the salt that eats the paint on your car, and all of the mud and ice is easily removed, saving your car's paint job. Just one more super clean reason to make Westport Touchless Auto Wash. Highway 1 West in Iowa City, and by Hy-Vee on the Coralville Strip, your vehicle's best friend.
It's hard finding the best businesses to go to, especially when every business claims to be the best. Cut the confusion and trust localsloveus.com. We ask the locals who they love in order to provide you with trusted opinions in over 200 categories. So finding a trusted roofer, pizza place, hair salon, or just about anything else is easy. Check it out online at localsloveus.com or pick up our free print guide and get back to enjoying the things you
From the
love.
Harty and Stalker Studios in the heart of the Hawkeye Nation, this is the mighty 1630 KCJJ, Iowa City.
Harty and Stalker Jewelers, making memories, making moments.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. The warm weather will stick around for a while. Lots of sunshine for today with a high in the upper 40s. Tonight, we'll look for a mostly clear sky, falling to the upper 20s for a low, and up to 55 with lots of sunshine on Saturday. Dropping back a little bit on Sunday with a few more clouds into the mid-40s. Then rain develops Sunday night, continues on into Monday. Warm weather sticks around, though, low 38, a high right around 50. That's your forecast on the mighty 1630 KCJJ. We're sitting at 29 now.
Weather brought to you by the Westport Touchless Auto Washes at Walmart in Iowa City, Coralville's Hy-Vee. AllHawkeyes.com, brought to you by Premier Automotive in North Liberty. Hit a deer, call Premier. Steve Anderson, Hawkeye Title and Settlement. Mike's Lock and E-Keys for cars. Just got a compliment on him again this morning. GT Car and his crew at Supple Siding and Remodeling. Supple's Flowers, the home of 1-800-800-ROSE. Zephyr's Printing and Designing and Printed Ink on the Ped Mall. Big Dog TV, satellite, solar. Don't call an 800 number for your satellite TV or internet. Call local, call Big Dog, call Kevin and his crew at 338-6600. And brought to you by the Ox Yoke Inn. From allhawkeyes.com, it's Pat Harty, along with Tom Suter. and Coach Don Patterson.
They weren't that good.
Good runner.
But
yeah.
Good runner, but
yeah. What, Steve? I'm sorry, we were
Coach Don Patterson.
Hey, Coach. Good morning.
Good morning, Tom. Good morning, Pat. How are you?
Good, Don. I'm doing just fine on this Friday morning. It's good to have you on a Friday, and we were going to be real mean and ask you to break down the Iowa basketball team, but we'll leave that away. We'll just start with football. And just kidding there, but well, Don, I got to tell you, I was thinking about it. The ending of that game kind of went the way you said because Miguel Racino's basically secured the win because there was no way that team was going to score a touchdown. When he made that last field goal, I remember saying, wow, Don's right. That took a 2-point game to a 5-point, and to me, that's when it was over. Did you think, though, they run for a minus 15 yards and they still win? How shocking is that?
It's pretty amazing. I was thinking about the game in these terms, too, Pat. I flashed back on the Penn State game, and the reason I mentioned Penn State, you remember how that game played out.
Mm-hmm.
We couldn't help but feel that more than Penn State beating us, I'm sure that we felt that we simply gave the game away.
Mm-hmm.
We had every chance to win it, and we, because of our poor play, lost the game. I'm sure the Mississippi State fans feel that same way today.
Mm-hmm.
They feel that they gave the game away or that we stole the game, however you want to say it. So it's pretty amazing, really. I do recall this. In looking at Mississippi State before the game, I remember charting 9 games that were competitive football games for them this fall. In all 9 games, the team with the more rushing attempts won every time.
Mm-hmm.
And the amazing thing about this game, of course, Mississippi State ran the ball more than twice as many times as we did, 42 versus 20, and yet we somehow won the game. There was one tendency that did hold up. In those same 9 games, the team that was ahead after 3 quarters went on to win the game all 9 times. And that tendency still holds true. But that team in the Outback Bowl, of course, was Iowa that had that 3rd quarter lead.
Well, Don, if you're the tight ends and receivers coach for Mississippi State, how frustrated are you? I mean, to me, the penalties were huge. Penalties and drop passes. Wouldn't you say that led to Mississippi State's demise?
Yeah, absolutely. Just to give you an idea of some of the stats, I know you're familiar with them, but maybe some of our listeners are not. We were outrushed 190 to minus 15. We were outgained 342 to 199. But you have to realize we had 75 of that on one play.
Yeah.
That only leaves 124 yards for all those other snaps. They ran more plays, 74 to 51. We were out-punted. Every time we traded punts, we lost 16 yards in field position. We were beaten on time of possession by more than 7 minutes, and yet we still won the game. So the obvious question is, well, how in God's name were we able to win the game? I've really boiled it down just to a few things, and if you think about it, I'm sure you'll agree with me. Number one, we were the more disciplined team. And normally penalties do not have a huge bearing on the game. But it is not normal for one team to have 90 penalty yards and the other team to have 0. It's not normal for one team to have 8 penalties and the other team not be flagged at all. So if you're talking about that kind of disparity in penalties, yes, it does make a difference. And there were any number of big plays that were negated because of penalties against Mississippi State. So that's one reason we were the more disciplined team.
Mm-hmm.
We simply played with more poise and more discipline. We didn't have stupid penalties as they did. That had a lot to do with it. Number 2, we were the more opportunistic team. And I can specifically talk about that in terms of red zone. We were only in the red zone twice.
Yeah,
both times we scored touchdowns. So we were 6.0 on 2 trips into the red zone. They were actually there 3 times. But they only averaged 3.0 on their 3 trips. They had a touchdown, a field goal, and then the interception was also a red zone play because they were on the 20-yard line at the time, talking about the interception in the 4th quarter. Another thing that comes to mind for me, hats off to the defense, because we were at our defensive best when it mattered the most. Think back to that great goal line stand early in the 4th quarter. They have a 51-yard pass play. We're beaten on the play, and I don't even recall who the corner was, but the same thing we've always told our players, if you can sell out, even if you can just grab an ankle and prevent him from scoring on that long play, who knows what might happen on those next few downs. Well, that's exactly what happened. He got tripped up. He fell at the 1-yard line. And 3 plays later, they were on the 3-yard line. They lost -1, and then no gain on 3rd down. And then they reluctantly lined up and kicked a field goal. It gave us a chance to still maintain our lead. We still held our lead with a great goal line stand. That's as good as we've had the entire season. And then looking at offense, the thing that came to mind for me, I know I was talking to Kirk on Christmas Day before they left town on the 26th, and I said, Kirk, we got to find a way to fabricate at least one big play. And you may have to run 4 plays to do it, but it's going to be worth it because you got to try to fabricate a big play. 75-yard touchdown pass to Easley, and I can't really tell you why that safety came off of Nick so quickly. All I can tell you is the play action had everything to do with it. He thought it was a run. We had been running the ball on 1st down. He simply went to sleep, and Easley blew right by him, and Nate saw him, and it was a 75-yard play, which is the biggest play they've given up in the entire season. And in a close game, of course, one big play can be the difference in the game, and certainly that 75-yard play had everything to do with it.
There were huge momentum swings in the game at various times. We can't also state how important it was the first 2 drives that Mississippi State had to hold them to field goals there instead of touchdowns. You know, you could have a completely different game at 6-0, which it was, and if they had been at 14-0, who knows?
That's true. We've been totally dominated in the first quarter, and yet we were still only down by 1 score. Those 2 field goals giving them a 6-point lead. So you're right. We hung in there, and it was unbelievably ugly in the first part of the game. But then the next thing you know, we pop a big play in the second quarter, and we get a short field thanks to the defense. We had a couple of short fields that we took advantage of. And all of a sudden, we've got a 17-6 lead at the end of the first half. And I'm sure they're trying to figure out how in God's name are we behind in this game because they had dominated play from the line of scrimmage. One other thought about how the game played out at the end, and getting back to that theme of how we were lucky, how we were able to win the game, number 5 on my list is we were the lucky ones. And I say that we're so fortunate. We had first down. They had first down on the 20-yard line. Fitzgerald throws a ball that should be a touchdown. Guidry, the receiver, did a good job of beating Jake Gervais on the play. All he's got to do is possess the ball in the end zone. The ball couldn't be thrown much better, but thankfully for us, he bobbles the ball. The ball pops up in the air. It ends up in Jake's hands. Critical interception, and we once again maintained our lead. You know, because at the time, I think it was a 4-point game at the time, I believe. I can't recall the spread. Anyway, it was less than a touchdown, certainly. That touchdown would have given them the lead, and because of their own poor play, good job getting open, but you still got to catch the ball. They didn't do it, and we did, and we were lucky there. There's no way around it, because that should have been a touchdown. But we were ready to take advantage of their mistake. Jake did that, and it gave us a chance to hang on to that lead, which, of course, we were able to do. We did have, just talking about, go ahead.
Well, I thought one of the most critical times was when they ran 3 quarterback draws, delayed draws from the end zone, right in front of the Iowa end zone from the 1-2 yard line. And I kept saying to myself, is he really going to do this? When he did it 2 times in a row, I'm like, there's no way he's going to run that exact play again. And he did. And they settled for, I believe, one of the, what do you think of that? Was it when Moorhead called the same play 3 times in a row?
Well, to be honest with you, if you're sitting on the 1 yard line, I don't believe I'm going to line up in the gun. I'm going to get underneath the center, and I might even sneak it on first down. If not, it's going to be a strict belly dive to the near back, to the fullback, if there is a fullback. The same way that we've scored so many touchdowns through all these years. And, the bottom line, when you get in the shotgun and you take the snap, you position yourself to lose more than a couple of yards.
You're on the 5 or 6 yard line.
Yeah, you're on the 1 yard line. You got 4 downs, for Christ's sake. I believe I would get underneath. Now, maybe they never get underneath to take a snap, but that's a mistake on the goal line because you see us line up a lot in the shotgun too, but not on the 1 yard line. You don't. We're going to be underneath the center, and we're either going to sneak it or we're going to probably make a handoff to the fullback just to dive over that line of scrimmage. Knock them back a yard, and you got a touchdown.
Yeah, and looking individually, Nick Easley and Jake Gervais were huge stories, and that's neat, the walk-on thing. But I'll tell you what, A.J. Epinesa and the way he crashed that pocket and just, talk about him, Don. He's halfway through his career as a Hawkeye now. I think he's probably only got 1 year left, but it just seems like he is just on the verge of being one of the best here at Iowa, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think so. He certainly got the potential to be the best we've ever had. And that says a lot because we've had a lot of great defensive ends through the years. You're right. He certainly disrupts the game. You think back, he forced one fumble, but there was another ball that was ruled as an incomplete pass, and it was so close to being another forced fumble. I think he played a wonderful game. Honestly, I said at the end of the game, I think Nick's had a great game, but I'd be inclined to name the player of the game as number 94.
Well, he was my second choice.
Because he disrupted so much of their offense, and for that matter, I'm really happy for Chauncey Golston.
Yes.
What are the odds that he'd be in position to make two big plays? And of course, he would say he got a great assist from Epi on one, and he got a great assist from Nelson on the other, but he still was there to make the play. What's amazing, Epinesa's forced 4 fumbles. 3 of those fumbles have been recovered by Chauncey Golston.
All 3 of
What are the odds of that?
No, you're right. It's a wild stat. And I'll tell you what, they're both back next year. Anthony Nelson, I'm still hearing back and forth. But, even if Anthony Nelson does decide to go, with Epinesa and Chauncey Golston back, you really got to like what you have at defensive end going into next year.
The thing that happened against Mississippi State, we've always said this, the first thing you need to do, of course, is not beat yourself. Mm-hmm. And simple way to do that, of course, is not get flagged with unnecessary penalties, not turn the ball over, at least strive to not turn it over at all. We were +1 on turnovers, and if you think about it, that last turnover we got had everything to do with the outcome of the game, because that's the ball that might have been a touchdown pass, except the receiver bobbled the ball, and Gervais was there to take advantage of it.
Now, Donnie, you've been saying all year how the punting game was a thorn in our side and really needed to improve. Obviously, Colton had a rough game, but I must say one of those punts, the one that was one of the up guys grabbed it in the air. It was so low. Right. I don't think I've ever seen that before. The guy was maybe 20 yards down the field. It was so strange.
I think officially it was a 12-yard punt. All I can think of is I don't think he really intended to do it either. It was just that the ball all of a sudden showed up in front of him and he possessed it. And we're fortunate that he didn't stay on his feet, because I think he might have been able to run a ways with it. It was just a crazy play on a day in which there were any number of crazy plays.
Sure were.
I was going to mention one lapse that we had. In fact, fortunately, it didn't hurt us. But I just want you to be aware of it. We always talk about, handling every situation the right way. Let me take you back to the end of the first half. We were up 17-6. I'd say we were unlikely 17-6 leaders based on the way the first half had played out. There was only a minute 14 remaining in the first half, and we threw incomplete 3 times on that series of downs. That burned a total of 10 seconds off the clock. When we punted, we burned a total of 16 seconds off the clock. Now, all of a sudden, they're on the -47. They're out almost at midfield. They've got 58 seconds. We didn't make them burn any timeouts. They've still got 2 timeouts. And wouldn't you know it, there was a 51-yard pass play that followed that took the ball to the 2-yard line, except for the holding call.
Yep.
So, thankfully, we dodged a huge bullet there. We left them plenty of time to do something with that last possession in the first half. And it appeared that they had done something with that long pass completion, but thankfully the holding call brought it back. And it wouldn't surprise me if that holding call might have been someone trying to block Epinesa. I don't recall that, but it wouldn't surprise me. We have any number of D linemen, of course, that can draw holding penalties because they do such a good job of pass rushing. But we're fortunate on that series of downs. I know Kirk made a comment at the half even. We really botched up that last possession, and thankfully it didn't hurt us. And he's right, we did. We should have simply been content to run the ball there, protect that 11-point lead, force them to use the remaining timeouts, and then even if we turn the ball over on 4 downs, they have no chance to really go down the field and score.
So going into next year, Donnie, to me, if I were to list my 2 biggest concerns for Iowa football, even without knowing, if Hooker leaves, I mean, I still think there's a decent nucleus in the secondary, but it becomes more of a concern because Gervais is also leaving. But to me, the biggest concerns are the running game and punting. And to me, those are huge things for Iowa football. And I know they did win 9 games this year, but the schedule next year is a lot different. I think with the same performances that they had this year, 9-4 is not going to happen with the schedule they have next year.
It'll be a challenge, that's for sure. And I think you're right. You know, anytime you trade punts, just think back to how easy it was to play football when Reggie Roby was punting for us. You know, you knew every time you traded punts, you were going to pick up some field position.
Well, Don, no offense, but I used to sometimes wish you guys would go 3 and out just so I could watch Reggie punt.
Well, you're right, and we certainly accommodated you a lot of the time because that first Rose Bowl team was not that good on offense. We did a great job protecting the ball.
You did.
We had outstanding defense, and we had the world's best punter.
People used to show up early to watch Reggie punt. I don't know if you were part of that, Tom, but
my God, yes,
Don, that was part of Iowa football. Going there, and Hayden used to talk about how it just sounded different coming off Reggie's leg, and it did.
You're right.
God rest his soul, Reggie Roby.
Yep, I always said this: if you could be blindfolded, we could line up 10 random college punters, and you would be able to identify which one was Reggie just because the ball sounded different when it came off his foot.
So, do you remember the first time you saw him punt in person? I mean, when you first saw him, Don, was it just like, wow, look at this kid?
Well, of course, he had a right leg that was like a tree trunk anyway. I guess both of his legs were that way.
They were,
because that off leg, of course, has everything to do with punting too. But just incredible hang time, great consistency. It is not easy. I've always said one of the more difficult assignments in football is to be a good punter. And for that matter, I've said this, and I think it's true. For every good punter, there's probably about 5 good place kickers. Good punters are harder to find, no doubt about it. And when you find one, he certainly can affect your thinking in all kinds of aspects of the game because trading punts is not a bad thing if you continually pick up field position.
True. So, Donnie, weren't you telling us about a punter that was at UConn that is a grad transfer this year? Do you know if there's been any contact?
Oh, it was a kicker.
Was it a kicker?
Yeah, he's a kicker, actually. Yeah, I think he's certainly going to transfer. I recruited him out of high school, believe it or not, in the state championship game in the state of New York. In Buffalo, New York, he had a 60-yard field goal in the state championship game. He's hit as long as 53 yards in an actual game. His kickoffs are in the end zone 2 out of 3 times, so you don't have to worry about covering kicks. Much like we had with our luxury with our punter who kicked off for us a couple of years ago. And for that matter, Racinas did a great job this year.
He really did.
Kicking off too. We very seldom had to cover a kick, because they were more than content. Even if it was short of the goal line, as long as it has good hang time, they're still nervous about returning the kick. I don't like the rule. I think it's a silly rule that you can fair catch a kickoff and automatically go out to the 25. But it is what it is. That's the rule, and I understand they're trying to make the game safer and limit kickoff returns. So in that regard, I guess the rule is okay. You don't have to fair catch it if you're fielding it on the 1-yard line, but you do have that option.
Kicker is another concern. That would probably be third. A kicker, punter, and the running game. Don, obviously Mississippi State's defense is really good. I get it. I mean that's what. But Iowa is a power running team known for that, and it just seems like so often the running game didn't deliver this year, and really lots of years just doesn't live up to quite the reputation. What do you think needs to happen? Because these guys, they were experienced this year. I mean, they had 4.
Well, one thing that comes to mind, a traditional running game is good. We like 2-back running game, of course. We actually understand that fullbacks are good players. But you need to have a 1-back running game too. And for that matter, in an ideal world, you have a 1-back running game. I should say it this way, you have a 2-back running game in 1-back formations. Now, the only way to do that, of course, is to involve the quarterback. And I don't think we're going to be able to accomplish that very well with Nate. That's not Nate's skill set. But I just take you back to Trace McSorley, or for that matter, Martinez from Nebraska. That's another dimension to your running game. The leading rusher for Nebraska versus Iowa, of course, was Martinez. He had right at 100 yards rushing, as I recall. So I don't think we have that option of creating 2-back running game with 1-back formations. i.e. that means the remaining back is the blocker and the quarterback becomes the runner. We obviously can't do much of that because that's really not who Nate is. I'd like to see us do more of it, though. There's nothing that says, I think for the entire season we ran a couple of quarterback draws, and I think they were successful both times. I know they were successful once. It was a 3rd and 7, and we gained 10.
Yeah.
And I think it might have been successful the other time, too. But only a couple. We could run more of those. I understand you want to try to protect Nate. And for that matter, the thing I always told my quarterbacks, if it's 1st or 2nd down, congratulations. You just need to protect yourself. Avoid hard hits. You need to know how to slide. You avoid big hits. If it's 3rd down or 4th down, congratulations. You just became a running back. And now you got to find a way to make that 1st down. Get your pads down. Of course, get your pads down. Protect the ball. But do not slide because we need the 1st down. So that's the mentality our quarterbacks always had. On a critical down, you become a running back. Even if it's a pass play and you pull it down and you run with it, you become a running back. Be ready to take hard hits, get your pass down, protect yourself, of course, protect the ball, but strain to make a 1st down. I don't want to see you sliding short of that 1st down yardage because it's a critical down. We're going to have to punt the ball away if you don't make the 1st down yardage. So find a way to make it. I think there's all kinds of responsibility for a better running game. I think the backs, of course, need to work hard to become more explosive, more elusive. All those 3 backs have a different profile, of course, with how they play. Mm-hmm. I know what Kirk used to say when he was an offensive line coach. He would say, I could use another offensive lineman, but if you can find a running back that can make people miss, that's better than finding one more offensive lineman. If you can find a guy that can do that, please do, because, we're not going to consistently get them all blocked. And a great running back, of course, always finds a way to make the first guy miss. So hopefully the backs can become more elusive. They can certainly improve their speed and quickness, change the direction, those kind of things. Maybe we can find a game breaker out there from a recruiting sense. I don't know that. You're more familiar with recruiting than I am. And then beyond that, of course, our offensive line needs to find a way to become more dominant as a unit. The fact that our tackles are back, that speaks well to how well we can play. Of course, those tackles have to be effective for outside zone plays in particular, because they are at the point of attack. If the ball's headed their way, of course, it's critical that they be able to sustain their blocks. And then beyond that, I have a lot of faith in Kirk and Tim and Brian too. All 3 of those guys, of course, know a lot about offensive line play. And I got to believe that those 5 starters next fall are going to be darn good football players. The only question, of course, is who'll make up those inside positions. But at least we have several different options with who those players are going to be. And as you know, you can't just show up in the fall with 5 players that can play winning football. You better have 8 offensive linemen that can play winning football. In an ideal world, you got a backup center. You've got a guard that can play either left or right guard. And you've got a tackle that can swing either left or right also. Somebody has to be able to play both left and right. Doesn't have to be that 3rd tackle. Maybe it's one of the starting tackles that can swing over to the other side if we have an injury at tackle. But you need to have 3 guys that can play winning football at tackle, 3 at guard, and obviously 2 at center is more than adequate.
Well, Donnie, we now have a full season to look back on. Brian finishes his 2nd year as offensive coordinator, 9-win season. How would you grade Brian in his sophomore season, and where did you think he improved the most as an offensive coordinator, and where do you see the rest, him improving the most next year?
I would like to see us on offense have more of a mentality. I think back to year 1 at Iowa. I remember Coach Fry telling Bill Brazier, even in year 1, we were playing Indiana, and he said, listen, I know Lee Corso. Indiana's going to throw the ball deep 6 times. And your job is to defend all of them. Because let's face it, if they hit on 2 out of 6 deep passes, those are 2 huge plays. So I'd still like to see us have more of an attack mentality as far as plays going down the field. I think we have a chance to do that with our receivers gaining another year of experience. Brandon Smith has certainly gained confidence with those over-the-top throws. He's made more than a few of those plays. And, of course, Smith-Marset has speed on his side, too. So I'd like to believe we can be more effective throwing the ball down the field than what we were. So I'd just like to see us have a maybe even a more aggressive mentality than what we had this year. We certainly did more of it this year, I think, than we did a year ago. And I think it paid good dividends for us. So I'd like to see us do more of that. You know, exotics are a wonderful part of the game. I know, you know, I've talked to a lot of coaches through the years. Greg Davis is an example of a coach that did not really believe in exotics. I could mention that now since Greg's not here. Because I remember one time Greg made a comment. He said, Coach, the problem with trick plays is they require too much of your practice time. And I didn't argue with him because he's a veteran coach just as I was. But I would disagree with him in one regard. Trick plays do not require great execution. They only require good execution because they have the element of surprise. Honest to God, this is a true story, guys. One Friday afternoon, I'm scripting for practice. This is the day before a game. Coach Fry sticks his head in the conference room, and he says, we got any problems? Anything I can help you with? And I said, no, Coach, we're good. I'm almost done with the scripting. He said, do you have any regrets? And I said, yeah, Coach, I do. And he said, what's that? And I said, there's a play we should be running this week against Indiana, and we don't have it in. And he said, well, show me on the board. And I drew it up for him, and he said, well, can't we walk through it this afternoon? And I said, yeah, we can walk through it. And he said, well, if you feel comfortable that we can run the play after the players understand it, then we may still run it. We walked through it on that Friday afternoon. The next day it gained 55 yards. It was the biggest play we had all day. And the amazing thing about it is we never practiced at full speed. We simply walked through it.
And surprised them.
So that gives you the element of surprise again. We had good execution on the play. Everybody understood what to do. But trick plays do not require great execution. If you're going to run outside zone, you better have great execution because that other team knows you're going to run outside zone and they're going to work long and hard to defend it. But let's face it, it's hard to defend. It's hard to practice to defend trick plays because you might have never seen the play they're about to run.
What was the play, if you mind me asking?
You know, I can't even remember exactly what it was. It was some kind of reverse pass trail scheme where it started wide one way and we reversed back the other way, and then we hit the wheel guy coming out of the backfield. One of those kind of plays. But it worked, and I learned a lesson there from Coach Fry. You don't necessarily have to practice a play to even use it in a game.
Wow, that's an interesting story.
Yeah. So, and here's the other thing about trick plays. You remember poor old Coach Walden at Iowa State. At one point, I think we won 15 straight games, and at one point he said, we know they're going to run a trick play. It's going to happen sometime, probably in the first half. But we're still not going to be able to defend it because they know what they're doing with it, and it's going to work. And the beauty of establishing that kind of reputation, it forces the other team to kind of be a little bit tentative on defense because they're anticipating that trick play that's about to come. So you actually affect the defense in a negative way for them. You take a little bit of their aggressiveness away. Another prime example, when you run a simple reverse, people might say after you run the reverse, here's a good example, talking about a play that was beautifully timed and set up. We're playing Michigan in Kinnick, and this is the time when the guy that won the Heisman, the guy that does TV, I can't think of his name.
Desmond Howard?
Desmond Howard. You can go back and look at what I'm saying. Michigan comes out. I'm pretty sure it was their opening possession of the game. Kinnick is loud as loud can be. Michigan runs a reverse with Desmond Howard. I'm sure we had players screaming out reverse when they saw that he was heading back into the backfield. But there wasn't anybody that was able to hear it, and it goes 50 yards for a touchdown.
I remember the play.
That's a great call. That's a great call because it's a trick play that produces a touchdown. Even though we have players on the field that recognize it's coming, they're screaming out reverse, but nobody can hear them. So that's good football. And here's the truth of the matter. If you run a reverse and it gains 5 yards, people say, well, that was not really worth it. Let's talk about a reverse that gains nothing. Well, it still reminds the other team you better not pursue too hard because these people are crazy enough to run trick plays. And if you're on the backside of the ball goes away, you better not assume that all the action's happening on the other side of the field because it may be coming back your way.
Well, Donnie, I know we asked you the last show. You have Alabama. That's your pick to win the national championship?
I'm still going to go back. I haven't done the analytics for this game. I'm going to do it. This is going to be a different kind of challenge in terms of analytics. Of course, they're both 14-0. So right now, just looking at it preliminarily, I think I'm going to look at all 14 games. I'm going to run through at least 21 parameters. It'll take some time to do it, but here's what I think I'll find. There are games when Alabama won that parameter all 14 games. Here's what I'm hoping. There's a parameter that Alabama won 14 for 14, and I'm hoping Clemson won that same parameter 14 for 14 times. And then, you know what I'm going to say next. That tells me the team that wins that parameter probably wins the game. Because it's been, I'm guessing there's probably a few parameters out there where they were 14-0. They won the parameter every time. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they'll only win it 13 out of 14 times. Well, that's still a good indicator. If there's one parameter that Alabama won 13 out of 14 times, and that same parameter Clemson won 13 out of 14 times, I'm betting whoever wins that parameter is going to win the game because it's been that reliable in predicting a winner.
I'm going to go with Alabama. Partly, I think Clemson. They won that one game against Alabama, but that one game had Deshaun Watson at quarterback. I think this true freshman's great. Don't get me wrong, but he's not Deshaun Watson. I thought Deshaun Watson's ability to run and throw in that game is why Clemson won. I've got Alabama winning a close game, but I mean, you think it's good, Donnie, that it's the same championship 3 out of the last 4 years?
No, I really don't. I wish we had more parity at the top. We agonized over who should be those 3rd and 4th seeds for the Final Four, and it turns out it didn't matter anyway because they both lost, and they lost convincingly.
And Georgia lost.
I guess we need to just. Yeah, honestly, the one thing I'm sure of, Alabama was pleased to know that Georgia was not that 4th seed.
You're right.
Because Georgia had proven we can play with these guys. Of course, as it turned out, Oklahoma at least gave a spirited effort. They put up points at least. On the other hand, Notre Dame laid a complete egg, and I think you probably know the stats. And Pat, I know you're a Notre Dame fan, but the reality is that they're in January 1 bowl games. I think they're 0 for 6 the last 6 games, and they've been kind of one-sided. I think it's a 24-point spread on those average games.
Don, to me, I cover Iowa and I cheer. I've been an Iowa and Notre Dame fan all my life. They're very similar. Notre Dame's just at a little higher level. Notre Dame does at a little higher level in bowl games on most kind of what Iowa has done recently under Kirk. Now, there's this 2-year trend, but there's where it seems like Iowa will have a good year, but then they'll go on the big stage, Rose Bowl or whatever, and I don't want to say get exposed, just get beat. And Notre Dame does that too. I mean, I just see a lot of similarities.
Well, you're right. Just talking about the dominance of Clemson and the dominance of Alabama, I'm like you. I'd still go with Alabama. I just like their experience at quarterback. That freshman for Clemson's had a great year, but he's never played any game this big either. So I'd still go with Alabama. I think if they played 10 times, I think they'd win more than 5.
Yeah,
they might only win 6, but I think they'd win more than 5.
I agree.
I think it'll be a great game, and I'm still going to do the analytics. And if you guys are curious what those analytics are, give me a call on Monday. Even if there's not a radio show on Monday, give me a call on Monday. I'll be
there is, so we'll
share those with you.
Sure. Yeah. No. We'll definitely give you a call. There is a show on Monday. And hey, Don, like I said, I really appreciate you coming on Friday on short notice because our listeners love your insight. We'll definitely call you Monday, and then we'll probably do one more show after the whole thing's over, kind of a official kind of end of the season, look ahead to next year. But no, we'll definitely. I'm just curious before we go, how long does it take you to do the analytics you're talking about?
Well, it's going to take a while because if you think about it, these 14. If I go with all 14 games, obviously I need to evaluate 14 different football games. This is just for one of the 2 teams, of course. If there's 21 parameters, that means that's 294 evaluations for one team. And then, of course, you've got 294 evaluations for the other team in those other 14 games. And then you have to go back and analyze, which one was the most reliable in predicting a winner. So it'll take a little bit of time, but it'll be worth it. Some of those parameters do take time because if you're talking about stuff like red zone scoring success, you got to go back and explosive plays is another example. It takes time to identify the winner on explosive plays because you have to painstakingly look at it.
I see.
Look at the game one play at a time. I'll do that because I got the time to do it.
All right.
It's fun to analyze it from that standpoint. I'll have an answer for you on Monday.
Okay.
As to
great. We'll look forward to it.
That sounds good.
That'll be great,
you guys
Donnie.
Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you later.
Okay, Donnie,
thanks so much,
a lot.
Coach.
We really appreciate it. Good weekend.
Mighty 1630, KCJJ. It is 9:37. That's what it is.
9:37?
9:37. And time for the markets. Here's Adam Huluska from Wells Fargo Advisors.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Stocks finished firmly lower on Thursday. The Dow was down 660 points yesterday, while the S&P 500 lost 62 points. And the NASDAQ Composite was down 202 points to end the session at 6,463 total points. The U.S. stock market suffered through a volatile session yesterday after a cautious update from Apple renewed concerns that global growth is slowing. In a surprise pre-announcement, Apple CEO Tim Cook cut the iPhone maker's revenue guidance for the first time in 15 years, citing weak iPhone demand in China as a key factor. Shares of Apple declined 10% yesterday. That was the worst daily loss since 2013 and finished to the lowest level since July of 2017. A disappointing economic update also weighed on sentiment yesterday as a report showed manufacturing activity fell to a two-year low in December. And in merger and acquisition news, Celgene surged 20.7% yesterday to $80.43 a share on news that Bristol Myers Squibb will acquire the drug maker for $74 billion in cash. Looking at the market here today, January 4th, the major averages are poised to advance here Friday as investors assess the latest trade-related and economic updates. On the data front, non-farm payrolls increased by 312,000 in December. That number was well above the projected 184,000. Currently, the Dow is up 608 points, S&P is up 64, and NASDAQ is up 208 points in early trading. Treasuries are lower today along the curve with the yield on the 10-year note up 6 basis points. That's at 2.62%. And commodities, crude is adding 2.1%. That's at $48.08 a barrel. And lastly, gold is off 0.1%. That is trading at $12.93 an ounce. Once again, this has been Adam Huluska with Wells Fargo Advisors, LLC, member SIPC. If you're in the Iowa City, Coralville area, we can be reached at 319-338-3799, or you can always come in and see us. Adam Huluska, Corey Urian, and Tad Stoley. We're at 501 12th Avenue, Suite 201 in Coralville, Iowa.
Iowa City's news first, 24 hours a day at 1630 KCJJ.com. Powered by Lucky's Market at the Iowa City Marketplace.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. The warm weather will stick around for a while. Lots of sunshine for today with a high in the upper 40s. Tonight, we'll look for a mostly clear sky, falling to the upper 20s for a low, and up to 55 with lots of sunshine on Saturday. Dropping back a little bit on Sunday with a few more clouds into the mid-40s. Then rain develops Sunday night, continues on into Monday. Warm weather sticks around, though, low 38, a high right around 50. That's your forecast on the mighty 1630 KCJJ. We're sitting at 29 now.
Weather brought to you by the Westport Touchless Auto Washes. Walmart in Iowa City, Coralville's Hy-Vee, allhawkeyes.com. And now Adam Huluska joins us to break it down.
I'm going to combine both of Adam's world. All right. What's in worse shape right now, the Dow or the Hawks basketball?
The Dow is up 600.
All right, well, I don't follow it very close. Well, something's not doing right in the stock market, isn't there something wrong? Because my IRA keeps going down.
Well, it should be going up if you look at the.
If I look at the
kind
okay,
of a down market, depending on when you looked at it. But today,
it's been 2 weeks. It's been about a week. It's been about almost 2 weeks since I looked at it.
Yeah. Well, part of it's been international, guys. If you look at some of the trade stuff that and global growth fears and some of the other stuff going on, it really has impacted the global market. So U.S. we were down about 5-6% on an annual basis. But then if you look over into the China markets and some of the other ones, they were down 25% last year. So if you had a nice balanced mixture, it was down, and part of that was international.
And, of course, the key word is patience when you're investing. But, okay, now we shift to the other topic, the Iowa basketball team. I'm assuming, were you able to watch last night's game?
So I did. I went to the girls' game and watched them beat Nebraska 77-71, but I watched, I came home and watched it, but I watched some of it at the Wig last night, too, even before the game. But I went back and rewatched it, late at night, and was pretty disappointed on that effort, especially, it's a big road game and a game we definitely needed to be in.
Well, and I'm no knock on Purdue, but Purdue, to me, at best, is an average team in the Big Ten this year. They're a shell of what they were last year. And, okay, this is 2 Big Ten road games, Adam, where Iowa's given up 42 and 48 points in the paint. I mean, You've played at this level. What's the problem?
Part of it is I thought our execution last night on defense was just atrocious.
I did too.
Yes.
Backdoor cuts and what have you, screens.
I've never seen anything. I think the one stat in the first half when I was watching it, there was 11 layups or dunks in that first half.
Yes.
And I loved watching Purdue's offense, the way it was really clicking. If you look at their timing, especially at that level, those guys were slipping screens. They were doing everything that they needed to do. But our guys were almost in la-la land where a flip screen or a backdoor cut, and a guy is wide open, and there's not a soul around in the paint, and it's a layup or dunk. And that's almost unexcusable. It can happen a couple times, but when you have 11 all in just the first half alone, and I know in the second half there was many, many more, I mean, you just can't win ball games, especially being down 17 in the first half. There's no way to come back from that.
Well, and some things I know can't be fixed. Like Jordan Bohannon is not going to stay in front of Carson Edwards, regardless of who is coaching Iowa or what strategy you use. It's just not going to happen. To me, though, and maybe I'm wrong, but screens and backdoor cuts, that's just communication and execution, isn't it?
I think so, and especially with the team. I would consider this team a veteran team.
Yes.
Even though we're not loaded with seniors, but these guys have played a lot of minutes, even from their freshman year. And so I'm with you. I think it's communication. You got to be talking out there. Guys got to be on the same page, and it really shouldn't matter. I know it does hurt not having Luka down low. However, some of those guys, they went small at times where we were matching up. I thought there didn't look like a huge disadvantage. I know there were some times where guys got mismatched on harms, and there was some pretty big height difference there, but still, at the end of the day, we matched up. We should be talking, and layups and dunks should not be happening, especially 11 in the first half.
I think another story that's starting to kind of develop is teams. Jordan Bohannon they put that Eastern kid, a 6'5" athletic guard, on him, and you could tell. Matt Painter said your assignment is to just not let him shoot threes, and if you're good enough, that can happen. And so, I mean, Adam, what did you see from Jordan? I mean, he didn't miss many shots. He didn't take many. He just was not a factor on offense.
He wasn't, and sometimes you see, too, he's not going north and south. Sometimes when he's bringing that ball up or they're getting into him, he's kind of going side to side, and he's not creating a play. And that's hard, too, because he's trying to back up in order to get into the offense and to try to, get things set. So we played on our heels. It just wasn't Jordan. I thought it was everybody who was playing on their heels, and just it was hard. The only guy out there that I can really say, Cook was a man amongst boys out there. And, thank God we have him, because I don't know what that score would have looked like without Tyler on the floor. But, yeah, I think going back to Jordan, he's got to knock down some shots, and that'll force people to, continue to come out. And he hit some, but, coming off screens, trying to get mid-range jumpers, anytime you're just relying on that deep three, it's going to be hard because it's easy to guard, and you put a long guy on him, he can come out and defend, and he can even give Jordan some space and help out, and he can still recover. So that's just a tough one. I don't know what to do after that one, because it definitely exposed a lot that we have going on. They shot the ball extremely well, but I think there's some stretches in there where we were with them in the first half, and then as soon as we lost that momentum, it was almost like we kind of just rolled over.
14-3 scoring run, and that was it.
Okay, Adam, you're Fran McCaffrey. You got 2 days to get ready for a tough Nebraska team.
It's going to be mad.
And you're at home, and they just lost. Both teams just lost. What are you going to do? Because we really got to win this game.
Yeah, I don't think you kill anybody. I think some coaches, if you depends on what approach they'll take, you come home and you practice, especially since they don't have school. I don't think they did that last night, but, some guys are crazy enough to say, hey, we get off the plane, get your practice jerseys on because we're going to go out there. You don't do that. But I think with this team, you got to really hit home. You got to watch film on this one, because you need to show them how bad it looked. With the first half and the second half, and it was just ugly basketball on a defensive end. So I think you got to show that and then quickly move on and get to this next game with Nebraska, because they're in a position where they got to win. What are they, 1-2 in the Big Ten right now?
Yeah, and they blew an 8-point lead late in the second half at Maryland.
Well,
game.
If they got to win, then we really got to win, because we're 0-3 and we're at home.
Yeah.
And it's nasty. I think the other thing, too, not to keep bouncing around, but Mike Loss tweeted last night. I don't know if you saw this.
I did see it.
I mean, I don't even know if this is true. This is something that's pretty alarming. Iowa's on the verge of trailing by 17 points in a Big Ten road game for the 11th consecutive time.
And Adam, I was surprised when I saw that, but then I I realized Iowa has lost 17 of its last 21 conference games, and 11 of those losses have been by at least 11 points.
Wow.
I mean, think about it. Both stats, to me, they sum up what – these aren't just losses. These are – I mean, last night was 16, but the score was way –
We were not competitive.
The game, but it scored – that was – score was closer than – but, yeah, no, it is stunning. And I'm not one of these guys who says they got to fire McCaffrey, because, no, you don't yet. The body of work still clearly says Fran deserves more time, but 17 out of 21 losses going back to last is worse than any stretch under Licklider. I mean, that's alarming.
It is, and I'm a numbers guy too, and to see that kind of stuff, I guess for me, having the year that we kind of had, and we beat some teams on the road or out in New York, and there were some good wins like in Des Moines. Iowa State was a great win. I guess looking back, I didn't realize 11 consecutive road games and all the different losses we've had in that Big Ten. If you go back a year and a half, it is tough, and that is alarming. And I think it's one thing that the staff needs to really hit home with the players. As much as anybody wants to pat you on the back for what you did before Christmas break, there's a lot of work to be done, and this is what, is one thing that's going to keep you out of the NCAA tournament for sure. I mean, we can't be 0-3. We got to start getting back to, being a 500 team in the Big Ten at least. So.
Well, like I've said, the last 3 of the last 4 are at Ohio State, at Wisconsin, at Nebraska. I'll even be somewhat positive and say they only lose 2 of those games. But, okay, then combined with what they've done now, they would have to go 10-5 in the other 15 conference games just to finish 500 in conference play. That's kind of the hole they're digging right now.
Yeah, it is, and I don't know if we can get out of that. But there again, you take it one game at a time.
Yes.
You get a little momentum. You get Garza back, get some guys healthy. Hopefully, you never know what happens with some of these other teams as the year comes on. But, I mean, realistically, we have a chance here. Nebraska Sunday, win that game. Then you're at Northwestern. I believe that's a winnable game. You got Ohio State at home. That would be huge. I think they're one of the top 10, 15 teams in the country right now, the way they're playing.
Yeah.
They're young and super athletic. So there is a chance here to go on a little bit of a run and try to get 3 back. But there again, we got to make sure we're executing and can't be turning the ball over. You got to make sure that, guys are sound defensively, and it's definitely a huge uphill battle what we got right now.
I hate to say it, but looking at the standings this morning, things have already sort of sorted themselves out.
Yes.
And there's 5 teams right at the bottom, and we're one of them.
And it's Illinois, Penn State, Iowa, Rutgers, and what's the other one?
Northwestern.
Yeah, those. It is starting to happen, and Iowa needs to get out of that because
that's
the other 4 you kind of thought would be in there, other than Northwestern. Northwestern's been a disappointment. Just when you look at the conference right now, Adam, obviously Michigan is just. I mean, how would you break the conference down right now?
Yeah, I think it's tough, and to be honest, I don't know who ends up at the very end of the season, but Michigan is playing as well as anybody in the country, ranked second. No losses. You got Michigan State right behind them. Once again, we talked about Ohio State. You've got
Indiana's coming.
Wisconsin got beat last night.
They're going to get better as the season keeps going. Throwing Minnesota up there. I mean, there's just so many good teams that we're going to have to go either play at home or play on the road. It's going to be a grind. And those teams are going to lose, too, at the top. They're going to play each other. They're going to play some other teams. But we got to steal a game every chance that we get, especially like an Ohio State at home coming up. Those are ones you got to take.
And as far as this game on Sunday, I mean, Nebraska is at least 7-8 deep. They're very talented. I mean, you've watched them play. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see, like Tom was saying, the frame of mind for both these teams because, I mean, they're both in – if Iowa wins – then Nebraska, they're both 1-3. I mean, they could both be 1-3, but I think I don't know. It'll be what do you think as far as do you think in a way Nebraska has an edge because Iowa hasn't won a game yet, or do you think they're coming off such a devastating loss where they had it at Maryland? What do you think the mindset's going to be for these teams on Sunday?
I think they're both going to be pretty hungry. Once again, we're not in school. I think there's going to be pretty high focus on both teams to get ready and to come play this game. I've watched Nebraska a number of times, and I think they're a really solid team. And they're going to come out and play. They can shoot it. They're deep. And I think that's one thing that we're going to have to match. Our bench did not really do much for us last night.
No.
We're going to make sure that we have to have, some bench scoring guys coming in and contributing because, Nebraska's pretty sound all around. So You know, in these games, it's always hard. You know, you think if you lay a big egg like we did in Purdue, you come back and guys are on fire and you get that real bad game and that taste out of your mouth and come ready to play. So that's what I'm hopeful for. But we got to make sure we smack them early because, you know, being down in the first half, especially double digits, it's so hard in the Big Ten to come back from those kind of you know, double digit deficits. So
one thing I'm starting to notice is teams are scouting Connor McCaffrey. I mean, they're laying off him. They're saying go ahead and shoot that three, but you're not going to use your size to get in the lane and to dish off. Have you noticed that? Because Purdue sagged on him and was begging him to shoot between the free throw line and the top of the key.
Yeah, they absolutely were. And you're going to find that, especially the more game film that you have. Even for Joe Wieskamp, he hit some nice shots, but there was a spin move there. There's some other things where he went baseline. Guys are going to know what your tendencies are. And that was always hard for me when I first played at Iowa State in the Big 12. That first go-around is always kind of nice, but the more film, the more they got on you, it makes it just a little tougher. But, you know, Connor can shoot. He's just going to have to prove that he can knock down those shots, and that's going to free up Tyler. It's going to free up some of the other guys. So, you know, even though you got that scouting report, there's things that our guys can do that they don't even know yet. So we got to make sure that we still try to hit those shots. If you're Creener and you get a pick and pop, you got to shoot it. If you're open, you got to try to score.
Well, I'm not just saying it because you're on the air with us, but to me, Wieskamp needs to watch film of you as a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, because if I remember correctly, you could do it all, but you became more of a versatile scorer the more you played. It seems like you relied more on your perimeter shot. Teams realized that, but then you used your size and athleticism to become a scorer as a penetrator, turnaround jump shots with your back to the basket. Joe needs to do that because right now I think there were times when he tried to go to that level last night and he struggled. I mean, to me, like I said, I'm just comment on how your game sort of evolved because you're a little shorter than Joe, you're a little more athletic than Joe was, but to me, you guys play similar roles.
Yeah, I would say that I think Joe is a lot more highly skilled than I was. You know, coming out of high school, I did track, baseball, did a little football. You know, and these guys, and you can tell, these guys are coming in with really high skill development. Watch his step backs, watch some of the moves in his basketball IQ. It's much higher than mine. I have no doubt about that. And even my first year, I kind of tried to find a way of how do I fit in on the floor. And I think he's probably going through that a little bit.
Sure.
But I think there's been times this year where he's hot and he's kind of making things happen, and then he'll sit for 5 or 6 minutes and
like last night.
Come back
and then we go through a drought.
And that's hard for him. He's a rhythm guy. You watch him when he was in high school, he just scored in bunches. And I think it's probably hard to go sit on the bench for 5 minutes or so, and then you got a TV timeout, and it ends up being a 7-8 minute, you know, stretch where you're sitting, you're not out on the court, and it takes time to get back in and get that groove. I'd like to see Joe on the court maybe a little bit more. What did he play last night? He still played 28 minutes, but he's a rhythm guy. We need him to have that ball in his hands and making plays happen because I think it's good things when he's touching the ball in the offense.
Well, that's a good point, and that was one of the narratives on Twitter last night with fans. It just seemed like he was getting going. You know, he made his first two or three 3-point shots, and it seemed like he was. And then, of course, they substitute, and I get that you have to substitute, and I don't want to single out players, but they need to get something more from Macy Daly. He's part of this rotation, and he's just not giving them anything right. He's a better player than what he is. So, Adam, what do you say to a guy who's struggling? They need something from him. He's got to help them. They don't have a lot of options.
He might be a guy where, you know, like last night, the Carson Edwards or even a Wheeler or somebody, I mean, that may be a situation where you tell Macy, hey, go in there. I need you to be a defensive stopper. I need you to just ride this guy the entire, 90-plus feet of the floor. You need to be in there in the shorts. Do something like that instead of, the pressure of scoring or trying to make plays. That's always hard for a guy that maybe isn't comfortable right now doing that. But especially defensively and just hustling, when you come in, I need high energy. I need defense. I need your presence out there. And just make plays. Don't worry about making a mistake. But if you're flying around playing defense and just getting in guys' shorts, that's what we want. That's what I would do for a guy like Macy. We just need energy off the bench, and hopefully that would take a little pressure off of him. But, 12 minutes, didn't have any points. didn't really attempt a couple, but
his second shot that
he's athletic, he can do some stuff out there for us.
The second shot he attempted was like a 16-footer that went like 13 feet.
Yeah.
You could tell he's just right now. You can tell he's just struggling and pressing. So, but they need him because there's not a lot of options, Tom.
Yeah, Adam. Of course, we need to ask you a question. Coach Alford was fired from UCLA, and I know that you have some thoughts on that. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, last time we talked, we figured this was probably going to go down, and then was it the Liberty loss, and that was kind of the final straw that broke the camel's back. And it probably is a good time to move on. I think they're not a program historically that's going to take a loss to a Belmont or Liberty or even though Ohio State when I know it was on a neutral court, but they're having a rough season. It may be good for Steve to take some time away from basketball for a while. Maybe he can do some commentating on ESPN or some stuff out on the Midwest or West Coast, and it'll be a good break. I mean, he's getting paid financially, so I don't think we have to worry about him or struggling. So, in these cases, I saw it coming, and I think you guys did too.
Yeah,
so
sure.
I think he'll definitely land on his feet somehow, and if he wants to lay low and not do anything with basketball for a long time, he's going to be able to do that as well. So,
well, Adam, I'm no money expert, but he's made enough money for his grandkids to live comfortably for the rest of his life. I mean, he's made the kind of money as if he had starred in the NBA for a long time. I mean, I was trying to figure, he's made between $30 and $50 million, I believe.
Yeah, which is crazy. And he got in early. Some of these guys don't come into the head coaching job till later in your career.
No, you're right.
Lumps. He right away proved himself at the Division III level. I think he went to a national title game or won it, and then right away went to Southwest Missouri State, had success there, which led to a big contract at Iowa. And then, even when he went to New Mexico, I don't think he really took a financial step back from a pay standpoint.
No.
When he went out to Albuquerque and then obviously leveraged that into a big contract with UCLA.
So you know him personally. Do you think he stays out there, California, or do you think he comes back to the Midwest to live? I mean, or do you think it'll depend on what he decides to do professionally?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it would probably decide what he wants to do professionally.
Okay.
I heard just from him on the West Coast deal, I think he does like kind of being away, going and golfing. I've seen reports on that too, and I talked to Sam not that long ago, and just talking about life and family, and we just talked about Steve briefly, but I think he did enjoy his time a little bit out there of kind of being away from the public eye. I know out there, no one really cares who you are, out in Hollywood, so you can go out to dinner and do different things, and you're relatively unknown. So,
well, have you ever been to Calabasas?
It's a good question to see where he'll land and try to end up.
Have you ever been to Calabasas where he lives? I mean, it is one of the nice. It's gorgeous, and Justin Bieber lives there. So, but no, it's
maybe he and the Biebs can get a little duo going.
A taxi to drive through there.
It's incredible. It's just, it's an incredible area, and really for what he was earning there, he was probably one of the lesser income people. And I mean, those areas, those homes are incredible. But well, listen, Adam, Tom, did you have anything else?
I want to hear the album that Steve Alford and Justin Bieber put together. Wouldn't that be fun?
I don't even know what kind of music he's into.
Well, if they put together an album, I guarantee they'd play it on this station. So well, listen, Adam, we'll have next week. We'll have Nebraska to talk about and at Northwestern, and God, they got to win both these games.
We sure do.
I mean, you got to win at least. I mean, either way, the best they're going to be is 2-3, but they'll have some momentum if we can get a victory. So hopefully, we got something good to talk about. And are you going to the game Sunday?
I'm a huge Bears fan, guys. So
tell me about it.
Big Sunday.
I know.
I'm going to the game for sure, but yeah, I hate to miss the Bears.
I know, but I have to miss it too. But well, if you don't, we'll talk to you next Friday, Adam. And hey, we always appreciate your insight.
Sounds good, guys. Have a great weekend.
Yep.
All right, take care.
See you later.
Mighty 1630 KCJJ Iowa City.
That was your best hour on radio for years.
Yes.
Wouldn't you say, Tom?
Did you enjoy yourself?
I brought it.
Well,
you did.
I did.
You did.
Seamless transitions.
Levels were perfect.
Perfect.
Yeah. Our impedance, our ratio, threshold.
Our delivery, our preparation.
Yeah.
Our passion.
I was born to play that last hour.
Were you?
Yeah.
You seem to enjoy those. It's like you get errands done. House cleans while we carry this, while we steer the ship.
Well, now the callers should have something to say about.
We've only got a few
football game, basketball game. Now is the time.
UCLA Stanford game.
Did you see that? They just came out like they were the happiest guys in the world.
Who won?
And they beat Stanford by 850 points, I think.
Seriously?
They beat them good.
They crushed them.
What was it, 90s
or
70s?
The story was, all the guys out, the story written was, the team has quit playing for him because the players hate him. And I'll tell you what, though, I do respect Adam for the way he's able to, because he knows that I don't, but he still handles it well, and it just shows that you can have differences of opinion, and I'm willing to acknowledge Steve Alford was good for Adam Huluska. You can't deny that.
Steve Alford's been good for a lot
of people. I get that.
No
I get that.
Yeah. Hello.
First of all, I think that Cook obviously needs to work on his 15-foot game.
Yes.
Now, it's just atrocious. But anyways, what else is he? He
no argument.
For 26 points or whatever last night.
24.
I didn't even see those.
Well, I wish he would score when the game mattered. He got a lot of those. He got 8 points there in a game. The lead had gotten to be 25. He scored 8 points in a row, but it just didn't matter.
And I honestly, I don't know if people will agree or not, but I honestly think that Garza is, it's kind of risky to say, but in a lot of ways better than Cook.
I don't know about that.
Well, it depends on what you're talking about.
They have different roles.
And he finds a way to put it in the hole. Cook's got 3 moves, and he misses.
Well, I will say I do agree with you in that regard, but right now those 3 moves are getting him 18 to 25 points on a pretty consistent basis. And I do see what you're saying. I don't think Tyler Cook's scoring, though, is the biggest issues with this team right now, but his 24.
You're right, yeah.
But you're right, though, in that his 24 last night was pretty deceiving because when they needed him to play well and make some shots like that one that got stuck on the rim, that's when we needed Tyler Cook, and he didn't have it then. Nobody had it then. I do agree with the caller on that regard.
And we're getting just nothing from our bench.
And not getting much from point guard right now either, guys.
No.
Trainer's struggling, I think.
And Connor struggled.
Well, Connor's struggling in the sense that he's just not doing anything. He's just not, and Jordan's not doing anything. Jordan's just not. If Jordan Bohannon's not taking 5 to 7 threes a game, then you're not getting your value out of him. And he's not right now. He didn't last night.
No, he didn't.
Basically, you're right. The only thing that could have made it worse last night was if it was at Carver and we had to watch the burrito lift.
Well, in that regard, and it would be another home loss.
Thank God for small favors.
92-70.
90.
Or Stanford, UCLA over Stanford?
Yes.
That's like
what's Stanford's record this year? I haven't
they're not
them.
Great by any means.
But they're about
like
500.
So, yes, but we're talking about a team that had lost to Belmont and Liberty.
Yeah. Liberty.
You know what they're not saying? You know what they're not saying at UCLA is give me liberty. Well, they're saying give me liberty or give me death right now, and right now they chose death. But what's that thing you just hummed?
That's from Liberty Mutual Insurance.
Okay, that's what I thought it was.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hey, guys. Question about the Big Ten and football. Actually, I'm going to question about football, then I'll bring up something about basketball.
All right.
Football, in the state that the Big Ten is in right now, as far as football goes, with Urban Meyer leaving and the dominance that he had over the last, how many years was he there?
6 or 7.
I think 6.
Okay.
Might have been 7.
In the state that this conference is in, with him leaving and the dominance that he had, and James Franklin ain't really, claimed nothing. Jim Harbaugh hasn't claimed the seat. Wisconsin kind of fell back. Did the conferences, every coach, with the exception of the Rutgers and Illinois coaches, probably got to be saying, this is your time to step up and grab this thing.
As far as a big, yeah. I mean,
fair enough.
Fair enough. I would say though that Ohio State, would they go 12-1 this year and won the, or no? Did they go 13-1 this year? They went 11-1, then won the Big Ten. They went 13-1.
13-1.
To me, Ohio State is clearly where it starts. I mean,
oh sure.
I don't think there's any real. I mean, in some ways, I think they may be not saying better because what was Urban Meyer like 89-9?
Just a ridiculous.
You're right though in that respect, but I do think Ohio State is still. I think they like this Ryan Day. I think they're built to win, but
no, I think they are too. I mean, but I'm just saying the dominance is not going to be there. Like, there's no way.
Well, no, Penn State's not Penn State's not returning to the peak of what they were under Paterno. They have shown no signs of that. Michigan has won 10 games 3 times under Harbaugh, but we've seen that from Michigan before. So, no, you're right in that respect. But I think what's happening that I would worry about more from an Iowa fan's perspective is the fact that Purdue, Nebraska, and Minnesota are all 3 showing signs of being on the rise, and that will affect Iowa in some way.
No, and that's, I mean, when I was, I didn't mention, I mean, obviously, Brom, you could have Fleck in there. And, I mean, hey, I just heard the other day on 590 out of Omaha, what's going to happen first, an 18 playoff, or is Nebraska going to be in the semifinal next year? That was their poll question.
No, are you serious?
Come on.
If I'm lying, I'm dying, dude.
Wow. I don't even know how to respond to that. I think Captain's going to probably look up that station on the internet here.
I know what that is.
I know everybody's jacked about Purdue and everything, and then they're on the rise. The boat rower did fine. He's on the rise. But let's not deify him yet. I mean, they did give up 56 points in the first half.
But see, the problem, Tom, is when somebody makes a statement, you take it to the extreme and say we're deifying them. That's not the case at all.
But
that's your defensive.
I'm not saying that you are.
No, but I don't see anyone saying that but that's the Hawkeye defense mechanism kicking in there. Well, you're saying they're good, but no. Yeah. I mean, nobody's saying that Minnesota, but they're on the rise. They're getting better. Nebraska's clearly getting better. And Iowa is kind of staying at that same level. It's a respectable level, but we'll see. I don't think they go 9-4 next year. I don't see that. I don't see that with the schedule they have next year. And especially if Amani Hooker and T.J. Hawkinson both leave, which I think is going to happen, I'm still not convinced Anthony Nelson's leaving. I still think there's a chance he comes back.
Hurt to lose all 4 of them.
Well, I'll be surprised. I'll be stunned if Hawkinson comes back, surprised if Hooker comes back, and whatever if Nelson comes back. I wouldn't be surprised either way, from what I'm hearing and who I've talked to. Go ahead, caller. Sorry.
No, you're all right, man. In the football game, I missed a lot of the talk that Coach had on there, but what was the deal? I mean, on the game, watching the game on TV like I did, was that defensive line, were they stronger, bigger, or faster, or
yes.
all of the above?
I'd say faster more than stronger. I think some of those guys that were beating Iowa, it wasn't because of strength, it was because of quickness and just faster. They just were relentless in the pursuit of the ball, and then you combine that with Iowa's delayed handoffs and zone blocking where Nate Stanley takes 2 big lumbersome steps to get the ball to the running back, 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage and way out there, and then the running back runs horizontally to the line of scrimmage, and those fast, quick linebackers just gang tackle, and that's what it was. It was just insanity watching that over and over.
Damn, they were good, weren't they?
And yet they still won because Mississippi State, Iowa used that to its advantage with that play to Nick Easley. Mm-hmm. That was because of all those great things we just talked about with Mississippi State, but they used against them in that one play, and that's part of execution. Iowa was better in that respect, and it also helped that Mississippi State I thought, played horribly on offense. They were undisciplined.
Mississippi State, I mean, as far as self-discipline and everything else, I mean, being a disciplined football team and shooting yourself in the foot and they're about the equivalent of a junior college from what I saw on intelligence level.
And the fact that they would trash talk while visiting the hospital, to me, that's a sign that there was a little classless lack of character issue. And what's funny is it sounds like it was their best players who were talking trash to a bunch of younger players from Iowa that maybe weren't going to play a key role in the game. To me, that's a sign right there that there's a character issue on that team. And I thought you saw a lack of class and character on the field. Sometimes you can't separate the two.
They were definitely Bush League, man. And to say that hit wasn't, I went down and just listened to their reaction show on their podcast the other day, and I actually called in and rubbed a little salt in the wound because they weren't giving Iowa any respect.
Imagine that.
Yeah. Oh, man, you don't even want to know. I'm embarrassed to say what flew out of my mouth, but I'm never going to talk to those people again, so I don't care.
That's great.
That is good.
It was straight. I mean, they probably thought, Jesus, them people in Iowa, whatever.
All right, what do you have about hoops?
But the stuff they were saying was ridiculous.
Well, I will say we had some Mississippi State media guys. Like Rob Howe was telling me on the field, one of their photographers in the first quarter when Iowa looked bad was like, Jesus, I can't believe Iowa's even in this game. They suck. There's no and Iowa won. That's what's so funny. These Mississippi State people there was sort of an elitist attitude, and I don't know why. When I watched,
and when you watch the team, I mean, you see at the end when you see their faces.
Well, and it just goes to show you, yes, having a quick, athletic, great defense is a huge part of football. But so is the ability to throw and catch, and they couldn't do either on Tuesday, and that's a big reason why they lost. Iowa had more versatility on offense and just executed better, and you got to give them credit.
Well, I mean, Stanley could hit the side of a barn. Their quarterback couldn't with football.
Oh, their quarterback,
dude.
Terrible passer.
Their quarterback was the worst passer I've seen. To me, he's an NFL tight end. I think he could play. He's 6'5", 230, and yeah, Geno Stone missed a tackle on his touchdown run, and that was big. But you also got to give the guy credit for making Geno Stone. Everyone crucified Geno Stone after he missed that tackle, but quarterback gets some credit for making him miss the tackle too.
Real quick about the basketball team, guys. I don't know what it is, but when I watch them, I see like once a little adversity hits them, or like
good point.
A team makes a couple baskets and Iowa misses a couple, and it's just like, here we go, and you can see it on their faces.
That's a good point.
It's just like, I don't know if these guys are not mentally tough. I don't want to say that, but it's just, man, things ain't always going to go right. And part of being a great athlete and being the best player is my high school coach always told us, he said, guys, I know you're good. I know you're this, that, and whatever. But he goes, you impress me when what's the saying, when the tough gets going and all, all that garbage. He's like, that's what a good athlete is. More to me, it's the mental stuff, guys. Overcome that, fight through that, show me, be stronger, and I just don't see it from them, man.
Well,
I hate to say that.
What's happening, though, is, remember we brought up that stat, 17 of the last 21 games in Big Ten they've lost, and 11 of those losses have been by at least 11 points, or was it 13? It's one of those two. So, yeah, Mike's stat was incredible, but it didn't surprise me after I looked up that. So I think what you're seeing is a carryover effect, and you always say, well, last season. Well, all 5 starters returned from that team. It's the same team. So I think they're just in this pattern now to where, wow, we can't compete in the Big Ten right now, and it's just, I think that's what happens.
Well, and that's your proverbial good news, bad news. Good news, you got 95% of your points coming back
bad
this
news
year.
Is you got 95 points.
And you got a team that was 4-14
that allowed almost 80 points per game.
That's right.
Yeah. So no, I'm with you, caller. You bring up a bunch of good points, but I would go ahead.
No, and my last thing before I hang up here is. And this ain't popular, but if they do it, I'll get season tickets. The other option you got, man, is just get rid of the men's basketball and bring in men's hockey.
Could you imagine that?
Oh, God.
I'd buy season tickets. I'd be in Iowa City. But, Pat, then you'd have to cover it. No, do you know much about hockey?
It's cold. It's played on ice.
Yeah, all right.
That's about it.
All right, guys, have a good
one. All right, thanks. Hey, appreciate your call as always. I know a little. Wayne Gretzky.
I know a little.
Bobby Orr. Bobby Hull. Mario Lemieux,
Gordie
Howe, the Miracle on Ice. Who was the stocky
Dorothy Hamill?
Dorothy Hamill. No,
sure. Now you get into
she's a figure skater.
Mike Eruzione.
Yes,
remember him. Dan Craig or Dave Craig, the goalie. I know. Bring a team here. I'm ready to break it down.
Just as long as they serve beer. Then I'll go.
Tons of beer. So would you give up men's basketball for the sake of hockey coming here and serving you alcohol?
No.
All right, so you have a limit.
There are limits. No.
Would you give up Iowa football if...
Never.
Do we have a call? Captain, we have a... Go ahead.
Hey, it's Chris in New York.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, Chris.
Good.
Hey. Just to echo the previous caller's sentiments about their fans, I wasn't at the game, but I do like to visit the other side's media and podcasts and whatnot, and the arrogance from Mississippi State fans was astounding.
It was.
The way they talked about themselves and about Iowa, you would think that their stature as a program was that of Alabama or Ohio State, and Iowa was like Purdue or Northwestern. And I kind of thought, like, when have they ever done anything? So I looked up Mississippi State, and outside of that year where they were number one briefly, you'll remember there was a trivia question, Ole Miss and Mississippi State were like the top 2 teams in the first college football playoff poll.
I remember that.
Years ago. Prior to that, they haven't won a conference title since 1946, and they haven't won a divisional title since 1998. overall they have a losing record over the course of their history.
No,
and
it's stunning.
Not like a great. But they talked about Iowa like Iowa as a program wasn't even worthy of playing that.
And it didn't matter that the game was played and we won. It didn't matter to them.
No, they all said they blew it.
We were the much better team.
But what's funny is when they announced the Outback Bowl matchup, I went to the Mississippi State, their football account. And the comments were like, oh, this is ridiculous. I can't believe we have to play a team of Iowa's a level. At least we'll get an easy 9th win and be able to build momentum. It was almost that to a T.
No, it was that.
And I read some, Iowa's a respectable program, but with our athleticism, this game won't even be close. It was 90% of that going on. I just scrolled down for probably 100 responses, and I think they just all took this game for granted, and the team played like they almost took the game for granted.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I mean, it was a great win for us. Unfortunately, in the national press, it got very little coverage.
No.
I mean, it was kind of an afterthought on national TV, on like the radio
ESPN
shows.
barely mentioned it.
ABC that night didn't.
No.
On some of the radio shows, it was kind of like an afterthought, and it was kind of like, oh, Iowa wins a fluke game because of a fluke interception from Fitzgerald. There was a little bit of that kind of talk.
Well, you know what I would say in response to that, Chris?
Game.
What I would say in response to that is don't finish 8-4. I mean, that's the. I mean, 8-4 is not a fireable offense. Don't get me wrong, but there's a downside to 8-4, and on January 1st, you're irrelevant.
So you guys don't remember, like about a month ago when we got into this bowl, I called you guys up and I said I got this brunch conflict that I've been.
Oh yeah, how'd you handle that?
The neighbor's brunch. So the brunch got kicked back till 2 p.m. So then I just said, well, I'm going to watch the game, obviously. And if it's not going well and Iowa's getting killed, I'll go to the brunch. But, of course, it's going well. It's a tight game. I didn't go to the brunch. And then I got to sort of make the fashionably late entrance at 3:30. Hawkeyes win, smile on my face. So it all worked out.
There you go. All right, good for the Hawkeyes. Now I'm hungry.
Hey, one last thing.
I'm hungry.
All the early departures to the NFL,
it
kind of surprises me. I mean, you've got over 75 players, I think, now.
85, I heard. Someone tweeted last night that it was
okay.
up to 85. And do you realize there's only 256 draft spots?
Yeah, right. And they always say don't go unless your first two rounds. Well, dude, there's only 64 picks in the first 2 rounds. So I just feel like there's too many guys going. Now, I realize the best players are going early. But, like, if I'm an Amani Hooker, look, what do I know? I'm just a fan. But if I'm going to be, like, a 4th-round pick, why am I going early?
Well, I'm countering that with Chris, let me counter that with no matter what he does next year, his physical stature is not going to change in the eye. Right. He won the Big Ten Defensive Back of the Year this year. I mean, he could make first-team All-American next year, and the same things that'll make him a 3rd or 4th-round pick now are going to make him a 3rd or 4th-round pick next year. And I think that's what he's saying. I need to give myself another year of making money. That's how, I'm not saying he's never told me that. That's just my theory on it.
Yeah. He could also get a college degree.
Well, he could get it either way, though. I mean, he's 3/4 of the way. He told us the other day that he's not that far away from graduating. And Anthony Nelson's a 3-time academic All-American. He's going to get 8. So I mean, I get that, but I think with Hooker, I think you can everything you counter for staying. I think you can find a legitimate reason for leaving, especially when you factor in the short life expectancy of NFL players.
I think last year something like 40% of the guys don't get drafted that leave early. So I question some of the wisdom of it by some of these players because. Look, on Iowa, there's going to be 4 guys. On Michigan, there's 5 guys. On Wisconsin, there's 4 or 5 guys.
Penn State, 5.
That's just on.
I do know, though, that the 3 guys that are contemplating, from my sources and from other people have told me, all 3 graded really high. I believe second round or higher from the NFL. But that doesn't mean you're going to be picked in the second round.
Rounder.
Well, no, I know, but if Hooker's a 3rd or 4th rounder, I still say he makes a team, and more power to him. I think I mean, I get it. You want him to come back as a Hawkeye fan. I get that, but I see both sides to it.
Speaking of Wisconsin, I went to the Pinstripe Bowl, and it was an okay environment. But man, did they want to be there? You could just see it in the body language. They were there to play, and Miami did not even get off the bus.
Well, I think Mark Richt. I think you knew Miami was a team that was just unraveling. Mark Richt was ready to retire. It was just that was not a good situation. That Pinstripe Bowl, I think you're always going to have at least one team that doesn't want to be there, especially if they bring them from Miami. Think about that. You play at Miami, and your bowl reward is to go to New York City in December.
It was funny. It was funny.
That's just weird.
Anyway, great to have a bowl win. And,
it is.
Hopefully basketball turns it around. I don't have a lot of faith. But anyway, I'll talk to you guys.
All right, Chris, thanks a lot. I did think that was weird. Miami has to go to New York to play. That's kind of like, wouldn't that be sort of like
divine justice?
No, that would be sort of like dating Diane Lane, but then having to go out on a date with like Roseanne. Would you say?
Grabbing a crotch,
spitting.
Yes.
Did you like her version of the national anthem, Tom?
I did not.
Did your band ever do the national anthem?
We did not.
Could you have done it?
Sure.
Could you sing the national anthem?
Of course.
I think we should have him sing the national anthem on a show sometime.
And then I have to sign off the station.
Why? Is that some violation?
No.
What I think we should do is have him sing the national anthem with Uma Guma in the background. We played Uma Guma when you weren't here.
Yeah.
We used it as a background drop for a while. Captain gave it about a minute and a half, and then
Don't see it happening.
He got restless and irritated, and he took Uma Guma off.
Before we take this call, I want to remind people that UCLA beat Stanford 92-70.
But don't you think don't you respect Adam though that he can still have fun with us? Even though
Adam's great.
We take shots at a guy that
Adam Huluska is great.
He really is.
He is.
As
He really
great
is
as he was as a basketball player, he's a great guy.
He really is.
Hello.
Wow. Hey,
Well, excuse the F out of us.
Excuse us for making you wait through crap. I do like the fact that we make people wait through not a lot of good stuff.
I thought it was very important to remind people of that.
They don't get to control the flow of the show.
Of the content.
Yeah,
we run the content.
We have a flow.
Hello.
You know, my freshman year was B.J. Roy and Eddie's senior year, so you get kind of spoiled. As hockey and basketball was obviously must-see TV.
Yeah.
But you know what? It was also must-TV when it was Troy Skinner and Brig Tubbs. But I've caught myself last year and this year of just turning it off at halftime, whether we're behind or not, because it's just like it's sometimes so painful to see them melt down and have no answer as to how to correct themselves. You know.
That's a good point. And the one difference too is even with Troy Skinner and Brig Tubbs, as bad as it was at times, they didn't go through a stretch like this. I mean, the 89-90 season was bad because they had injuries. But then 90-91, when you think the program's maybe on the verge of not falling apart but really struggling, they got back to the NCAA tournament. Remember that? They got back to the – nobody expected that from that 90-91 team. And they got back to the tournament. But I'm with you. I mean, it's a different age now. It's a lot easier to turn off Iowa basketball than it was 20, 30 years ago. And that's just not all –
true.
That was the same under Alford. It was the same under – is that more basketball or what's changed more, do you think, Tom? The society or basketball? I mean –
I think the fact that you don't know where it's going to be,
I've look, just for this year anyway – after last year, when Iowa got down 15 points yesterday, I said, this game is over.
I don't think this caller was the only one who turned the game off at halftime.
No. Oh, I didn't even make it to halftime. I said, turned to Ann, I said, we're not going to win this game. I'm confident of that. We don't have to watch anymore. It's going to get worse. And it did.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I thought the exact same thing. And, the fact, I'm not rooting for Troy Skinner as our next point guard. I think he scored 30 more points than Captain Steve did. But in the same breath, I certainly, I'm just ready to turn it off because you're like, okay, they get down 15. It's just, they just got no identity to, it's just frustrating to watch. And it also keeps you from wanting to go, even living in town, from wanting to head over there and getting a cheap ticket to go to the game. But you're just like, gosh, I just turn it off.
It's a little bit different. It's a little bit different at home. I mean, I don't have that same hopeless feeling at home that I do on the road. But I've seen too many road games in a row with the same thing. We were ahead like 15-14, 16-15, thinking, okay, we got to stay within, either 3 points ahead or 3 points behind, but we got to stay in that window. We can't let them get further ahead. Then they got it to 6, and then they got it to 8.
Well, it was a 14-3 run.
Yes.
The game was essentially over.
Exactly.
That was it. Iowa, it seems, they just don't. The way you have to bounce back when you fall behind in a spurt is on defense because you're not going to make all your shots. But you got to get stops, and they just seem to unravel on defense when things don't go
Not
right.
only did we not get stops, but easy baskets.
How many backdoor cuts where Iowa just looked
ridiculous.
lost? That was bad. And so
it's like they'd never played before.
You're right. We're with you, caller. You're lots of people I think are feeling the same way you are.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Thanks.
I do, though. That's the problem.
It is.
There's just this pattern developing with this team, and fans are just to the point now where they're making the assumption that they're done. They're not going to come back, and they're proven right. I mean, that's where you worry about because it just feels like if this team doesn't get something going here in a while, of course they're going to be lost as far as doing anything postseason-wise, but they're going to lose fans. And then, by mid-February, if Iowa's puttering around at 3-12 in the conference, that's going to be a really bad vibe.
It's going to be a pretty empty arena.
And then going into next year, Fran has to win.
Yes.
I'm not ready to say Fran McCaffrey's on the hot seat right now because I don't think he is. But
he isn't yet.
There's issues. I mean, you can't just because it seems like there's that faction of fans, but then there's also the fans. Well, if we just win these next 5, there's so. I mean, what Fran's going to say today is the only thing that matters is Sunday. Don't give me this next 5 are winnable. The only thing Fran's going to look at is the next game. That's what Fran does no matter what the circumstance is. He lives in the moment, and I've always respected him for that. He's not going to panic. He may be a little edgy today if we ask the wrong questions. That's Fran. I get it. Go ahead, caller.
I got a question for both
right.
Tom and Pat about the crowd down at the football game. In general, I saw some pictures that looked a little empty, but my question is, were the Iowa fans well represented?
Yes,
and
very
was
much
the
so.
cheering loud during the game?
That's hard for me because I'm in the press box, Tom.
Yes, absolutely. And the other thing I want to say to the people who said, "Oh my God, there couldn't have been,"
I'd say there were 15,000 Iowa fans there.
Easy.
But there was not 40,000 fans in that field.
No.
I would say there was right around 15. I don't know if it was easy. I wouldn't say it was easy. I'd say there was roughly 15,000 Iowa fans, but there was maybe 30 to 35 in that stadium.
That'd be my guess.
That's the way of the world, though. That's what's going to keep happening with these bowl games that aren't kick-ass bowl games. More and more people are going to be staying home, staying away, and watching at home, and you're going to have these games played in half-empty stadiums.
But the other thing I want to say to the people who watch the game on TV, 98% of the TV angles were of Mississippi State's side of the
which
field.
Was unfortunate.
Which was, much, much less than our side of the field.
Hello.
Yeah, watching the game last night, as soon as, we were down 6, I turned to the better half and said, if we don't get a stop here, they make a basket, it's going to be really tough. And I was always raised, just watching it with my dad, and even in the cruddy games, the cruddy years, we watched from beginning to end no matter what. So I have done that, and I do that still. But last night was one of the games where I almost turned it off. The only reason I didn't is because I had laundry and dishes to do, and I didn't want to do that.
Well, thank God for laundry and dishes. And if you're doing that after just a 6-point deficit, there is a perception built here now, a stigma about this team, and it's going to take some doing to get out of this.
And it's so funny because, we did win, all of our non-conference games, which is a feather in your cap, regardless.
Well, that's what I wrote. My story today was there's a good side to this season and a bad side. The good side is non-conference play. The bad side, unfortunately, is Big Ten play, which is more important. I look at the schedule. Iowa State and Oregon are decent wins. They don't have another good win on the schedule. I'm not trying.
No.
Those other 9, Connecticut's not good. Pittsburgh's not good. Oregon is okay. We're not going to know for sure because I think Bowl's out for the rest of the year.
It looks
now.
like it.
And Iowa State's good, but Iowa State's not elite. So their non-conference schedule to me still didn't help them as much as it should have.
Hello.
It's me?
Yes.
Yeah, hey, you're talking about why Fran's not on the hot seat with his body of work. I'm trying to figure out what that body of work is, and when you look at the product on the court with the continuous dunk fest and layup fest on defense and the roster deficiencies that he's still going to have, why is he not on the hot seat?
Well, because
I like Fran. He took us back from the brink of extinction, basically, but, the body of work, to me, shows that he's not going to get it done with the players that he has and the players he's got coming in. And why wouldn't he be on the hot seat?
Well, because they've been to the NCAA tournament in 3 out of the last 5 years because he just signed a contract and extension. It is what it is, though. You can't. But it is what it is. That's
smart.
Well, what I'm saying, though, but they've also been to the NCAA tournament in 3 out of the last 5. We're prisoners of the moment. When Gary Bartas sits down to deal with Fran and Fran's agent, That's what would happen. Well, we've been to the tournament in 3 out of that. You can't change that regardless of how bad the current situation is now. That part of it, though, is fading away with each year they don't make the tournament. That's what I'm saying why he's not on the hot seat yet. But a year from now, if they don't get in the tournament this year, yes, he's going to be on the hot seat regardless of what his buyout is. The hot seat will develop when it becomes obvious this year they're not going to make the NCAA tournament. They could turn around and win their next 10 games. It's not going to happen, but they could. It's too early just from a numbers and circumstance point to say that he's not on the hot seat. That's his best answer I can give you.
I think and everybody got excited about the non-conference, but I always said it's the same players they had last year.
Yes, it is.
And
not quite.
It's going to be pretty much the same result, except for Joe, who's an all-around great player. I think there's not another all-around good player on that team that's got a complete game. That's it.
Well, no, I don't think anyone right now on that team has a complete game. Joe Wieskamp's good, don't get me wrong, but he's got a lot of work to do. I mean, but yeah, no, I'm just saying that it's on the verge of being on the hot seat if Fran can't. Fran's got to get them in the NCAA tournament either this year or next year. He's got to. Then that's basically what it comes down to. They got to get back to the NCAA tournament by the end of next year, or my guess is he'll be gone.
Well, and Carver Hawkeye will be empty.
Yes. So, yeah, I mean, to say that somebody's on the hot seat often becomes a prisoner of the moment thing, because right now the circumstances do leave much to be desired. But when you really sit down and you let cooler minds kind of take over, you'll realize that it is 3 out of 5. But no, they're on the verge. It's happening. But we're only 3 games into a 20-game Big Ten schedule. We don't know what this team's still about yet. Right now it looks bad.
Sure does.
Yep. Okay.
Appreciate your call, and I do see where he's coming from, because I guarantee you there's maybe as many fans that would agree with him than me. I'm just saying.
Absolutely.
I'm just saying from an administration, from a common sense, he's not on the hot seat yet because the circumstances aren't allowing for that. He will be on the hot seat, like I said, when it becomes obvious that this team's not going to make the NCAA tournament, because that will be 3 years in a row. And then you can't go 4 years in a row at Iowa without making the NCAA tournament and keep your job. At least you better not be able to.
Hello.
I sent a message to that more cowbell piece of work, and it was pretty tactful. I said, we may be slower, we may be a slow white team, but we don't want to hear it from anyone from your podcast. I said it'd be really nice to be able to make a living being a passionate fan. And I said, go Hawks. Took him several hours later, and his only response were the letters F-O-F-F. So I'm like, what a piece of work.
F-O-F-F.
F off.
Okay. Gee, I'm not real smart, am I?
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, I didn't catch. It's Mississippi. I guess is that what we say, Captain? It's Mississippi.
To them, the game was not even played. That we are the best. We are way better than Iowa. Those guys suck. We are great.
Well, and they lost.
I realize they may be the Nebraska of the SEC. So.
Maybe they are. They very well may be. But
Except they've never had the
in fairness, let's give Nebraska their credit. Nebraska
Absolutely.
for 4 decades was dominant. Mississippi State is just, they're, I don't know. I just noticed
the guy said it's been, they haven't won a conference championship in 60 years, 70 years.
Hello. World War War just ended.
Yeah.
World War II.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, with Mississippi State, they had 2 defensive linemen that are going to go in the top, 2 rounds, probably first round, Sweat and Simmons.
Yep, and they were really good on
guys.
Sure were.
Those guys were playing. I mean, they were. The fans might have said, we're going to roll these guys, but Mississippi State was maybe thinking the same thing. But I guarantee them 2 guys got together and said, hey. Let's play this game. This final game, we will totally roll Iowa.
Oh.
So I guess the point I'm making is they were totally beefed up for that game, and I'm probably making a bad point.
They both played well.
Yes, yeah, they did.
They both played real well, so the problem was with them.
Defensive linemen that are going to go.
Yes,
for sure. The first Simmons will probably go first round. I don't know about Sweat.
So are you making reference to Fant not playing in the game? Is that, or does that?
Not well.
Because I don't think the NFL draft stuff.
Does,
I think Fant left the team when he did because of how he was handled this year. Wouldn't you agree, Tom?
Partially.
I think that was part of it. I think, of course, safety for the NFL is a thing, but I think the way Noah Fant was utilized this year, I think that made him really easy for him to just get out when it was time to get out.
Yeah, I think the point I was really trying to make was that was a big win for Iowa.
Yes, I would agree.
That was a huge win. I mean, sure, they smoked us in that one phase. We had -5 yards rushing, but that throw
15,
for Stanley to,
whatever.
Easily had his career high game, 2 touchdowns, and I thought Stanley looked good for the ending out the year.
He did?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you.
I wish we could. I was going to ask you guys, man, I wish we could get a running back that could beat that first line of, like a Sean Green type that could take on that first guy.
Eno Benjamin.
Either bowl him over or get around him or
I'm
whatever,
with you. They've got 3 pretty good running backs, but when you combine it with a consistent offensive line, it is what it is. I mean, I like Mekhi Sargent, but they do not have a Ronnie Harmon, Fred
It's an
Russell.
average running attack at best.
It's and it's because they have 3. I'm not knocking them, but they are what they are. So, no, you make a lot of sense.
Right, yeah. So, yeah, and I sure wouldn't blame I would like to see Nelson stay. Hooker, who knows, and for sure Hawkinson's gone. I'd be really, so.
Yeah.
But you know what? Next guy in, we've got some superstars in the wings, don't you think?
Superstars might be a reach it now. You never know, though. I would have said the same thing about Hawkinson 2 years ago. He's a reach to call him a superstar, but no, you never know. I'm not worried about tight end that much at Iowa.
Right. I mean, like Brent, I'm thinking him coming up on D. He's the next.
Yeah, and he didn't even play in the game. He didn't even play in Tuesday's game. But no, Brent's is showing signs. There's some good young talent on this team, but like I said, next year's schedule is a different animal.
Yeah, exactly. All right, cool.
All right, appreciate the call.
I just wanted to call.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Bye.
No, I agree with pretty much every. I mean, next year's going to be an interesting and there's been a lot of talk too about with Kirk being so emotional. A lot of people are saying they think he's going to retire and hand it over to Brian. I'm telling you, the circumstances aren't ready for Kirk just to hand this thing over to Brian. I mean, they haven't.
Not even close.
They haven't.
I wonder if he really does think that, though.
Kirk, I'm almost certain that's the back of his mind, but Kirk's no fool. This isn't Russia where you just. There is some order in how things are done at Iowa. I know people think that Gary Barta just goes into negotiations with Kirk and just whatever collusion, fake news, whatever. But Iowa does govern itself a little bit. They're not ready to hand the job over to Brian Ferentz.
And they shouldn't.
No.
We are 9-9 in the Big Ten the last 2 years, and that is not very good.
You just don't hand the job over to the head coach's 35-year-old son who's got 2 years of being a coordinator. And who's 1 year removed from telling the replay official, remember, there's a lot that goes into it. You just don't hand the job over. I don't think we have to worry about that. And if they did, I would be stunned and extremely disappointed. And I think you would
be.
And you love Kirk Ferentz.
I do.
But it doesn't work that way.
Hello.
Yeah, I have a couple points to make about the basketball situation. One is, I don't know if do you guys remember Nigel Hayes that played at Wisconsin?
Sure. Yeah, from Ohio.
Yeah, when that guy was a freshman, he could not throw the ball in the water. But by the time he left there, he took his game to a whole nother level.
Very good point.
And there's just nobody on Iowa's team that is any better this year than they were last year.
I don't agree.
And then
Tyler Cook.
Tyler Cook had lots of games last year like this.
I know, but his numbers are all better.
A little, but I don't think Tyler Cook's a better player than he was. I completely buy what you're saying, caller. And if Tyler Cook's your one example, you're talking about a guy who was averaged 16, who's now averaging 18.
Tyler Cook is my one example.
And I don't think it's smart because he still has the same weaknesses as last year. Still can't make a 15-foot jumper.
This is also true.
Still is average to way below average on defense. Then I don't buy that. I think he's a little better stat-wise, but I agree with you on this one, caller. That would be my concern. Players aren't getting better.
Yeah, and the other thing is, outside of Cook, I don't think there's any other player on the team that another Big Ten team would want to have on their team.
No, I don't agree. No, I won't go there. I think teams would take Luka Garza in a heartbeat. I think teams would take Jack Nunge because of his size and potential. And I think some teams would take Jordan Bohannon, and they'd be a much better job of getting him open shots in the three because he wouldn't have to. Can you imagine Jordan Bohannon playing for John Beilein in that offense? I don't agree with you there, caller. I respect your opinion, but I think you're selling the Iowa players a little too short on that one. And I think a lot of teams would take Joe Wieskamp.
I see it, maybe 2 or 3, but my point is that Iowa the players need to get better.
I agree.
Take it upon themselves in the off season or whatever. And I know they said there was a lot of work that's done on defense, but if you can't play defense to begin with because you're not athletic and you're not, a shutdown defensive player to begin with, I don't know how much difference that's going to make. And then he just needs to recruit better.
That's it.
I mean, he swung for the fences for a few 5-stars, but there's plenty of 4-stars. I mean, there's
plenty of 3-stars.
See what their offer list is and what they narrow it down to, and their mid-majors. I mean, there's plenty of players out there. They just need to. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's relationships or getting in that AAU cesspool with the shoe companies. I hope they don't have to go there, but.
And I don't think Fran would.
Yeah.
I'm with you, caller. I agree with everything you say, but I do think
my thoughts on the situation.
I appreciate it. No, I thought those are good thoughts. But I do think you're selling Iowa a little short. I think every Big Ten team would take Joe Wieskamp in a heartbeat. I think most of them would take Luka Garza, and I think all of them would take Tyler Cook. Isaiah Moss. I mean, you don't think Isaiah Moss couldn't help Illinois but the other one, and I do see, Tom, you can say that Cook, but Tyler Cook did a lot of last year what he did last night. There, if you go back and look, he had a lot of 24.
Oh no, I know and
that. His game hasn't changed. It's still dunks, short little things around the rim, and a lot of scoring when the game is over. He did a lot of that last year, and I'm not knocking him. He's the best player on their team, but to me, unless Tyler Cook, teams don't respect that 12-foot jumper as him. They want him to take that shot.
They want him to take
and he wants to take that shot because that's the shot he needs to make to help his cause in the NBA.
He doesn't make it.
He doesn't make it. That's my problem. But the caller does. I mean, Ryan Kriener is no better than he was 2 years ago right now. He basically seems like the exact same player. So and it's still early in this year yet, so we can't. These opinions will change. I mean, there's still a lot of sample size yet to be played.
And you might be able to make the case that Luka Garza is getting better, although he was playing awfully well at the end of last year.
Yeah, he's nowhere close to where he was playing last year, stat-wise and everything.
Great.
And now you also had a 10-pound cyst removed.
Yeah.
And how about Dr. Pimple Popper?
What is that?
It's a show on. I actually changed and sat and watched some lady get a 10-pound lipoma taken out of her shoulder last night. It made me ill, and I ended up not eating dinner. That's how I'm going to diet now. I want to lose 20 pounds. I'm going to watch Dr. Pimple Popper.
Why did you watch it?
I don't know. I just kept shielding it because it started to make me gag because I have a really weak stomach. They took this. It was like taking an octopus out of a lady's shoulder.
Well, why don't you make fun of me for watching NCIS?
I watched it for 5 minutes. Caller, what do you think of Dr. Pimple Popper?
You ought to see the show where they pull stuff out of people's ears.
What's wrong with you people?
Oh, it's worse than pimple. There's bugs been living in some people's ears since they were a kid.
Oh, my God. There went
and
lunch.
They had kids in their ears.
That's went lunch and dinner.
I thought that bowl game was outstanding. I mean, I had to work. I had to listen to the radio, some TV radio. I just thought it was great. I mean, he ran the ball, I should say, tried to, over and over. And then when they got complacent, he sent a receiver downfield and launched it.
I agree.
And the thing I didn't get to see, and I love the punting game, Mississippi State, that punter was at 70 yards.
He was incredible, yeah.
Did he do it over and over or just the one?
Pretty much. He was like that throughout the whole game. And for us Iowa fans to see punts like that now after 2 years of rest at her is like, wow, look at that. So, no, he was good.
The game.
And their kicker was good.
That's just incredible. He'll be in the NFL if he can do that.
Well, yeah, if he can do that consistently.
But, yeah, you look at the stuff they pull out of people's ears, and it's just incredible.
No.
I would prefer not to look at stuff pulled out of people's ears. I don't know why I looked at this.
Not going to happen.
It's not as gross as pimples. It's not.
Yeah, pimples
it's
are
dry,
the sick.
Dead bug.
Pimples are the sickest thing in the world.
No,
Let's don't even go.
None of this.
I went there. I'm sorry. What do you think of? Do you like Dr. Pimple Popper? You've never watched it, Captain?
No, I've never watched it. I saw it on the guide, and I thought, I bet that guy from Cedar Rapids watches this. Exactly what I said, and he does.
We're watching Honey Boo Boo.
Why would you watch that?
God, that was disgusting. She's a Republican. I know who she voted for.
See you later. Thank you.
Good day.
Tom, have you aware of Dr. Pimple Popper?
No.
It's a show on, like, what is it like? What network?
TLC
or something.
No.
She basically they show examinations of her popping big, massive boils.
No.
What's worse, Captain, a pimple or a boil?
Well, I would say
a boil.
A
They
boil
hurt.
would be worse.
I've never had one. I knew wrestlers used to get them some from all the rubbing and the epitago and just boils. I've been told hurt.
Yeah, a lot.
They do.
I had one.
You've had one?
Yeah, I have too.
I've never had them, but I'm told they
I had
hurt
one
like
of the worst.
They
your
do.
butt. Well, let's not even go there.
No,
It's
I
not,
was in such pain that I took a needle and.
well, you're supposed to lance them out, aren't you? Where'd you have yours, Tom?
On my leg when I wrestled.
Okay, yeah, because are we making a caller sit through this? Good Lord.
That's okay. I got a question, Pat.
Yeah.
If Iowa wins every game the rest of the season and gets a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament, and then loses in the first round, is Fran on the hot seat?
No.
I'll hang up and listen.
No, God, no. If they do that, that would be the best first-round loss in the history of Iowa basketball. But I don't know. Would they be at 17-3? They wouldn't be a number 1 seed, I don't think, would they?
You know, if they then went and won the Big Ten tournament, I would.
If they won the
think
Big Ten tournament, they would. Yeah, but
I mean, they'd have 5 losses. No, they'd have.
Well, they wouldn't be ahead of Duke because Duke's not going to. They probably wouldn't be ahead of.
They have 3 losses.
They probably wouldn't be ahead of Gonzaga because they're not going to lose maybe 1 or 2 more games. But yeah, I can't believe we're even discussing this. We're talking about Iowa winning 20 games in a row.
Yeah.
What if they did win their next 20 games, Tom?
I would fill my pants.
Wow. With what is the question?
You know what?
There's several substances that could be involved there. What are you doing, Captain? You sexting or you?
Dr. Pimple Popper renewed for 2nd season.
Damn right it did.
By TLC. It has ranked number 1 among women 25 to 54.
Oh, my God.
And you wonder why this country's effed up?
Number 1!
One of the 3 of us does not find this humorous.
And it's the one not laughing.
Ridiculous.
He's loving this
Number
now.
1!
This is my fault, Tom. I brought her up. I brought her up.
I don't want to be questioned about my sophomoric fart humor ever again. This show, they're pulling things. At least we're pushing things out of orifice. They're pulling things out. It's number 1.
So does Jan watch it?
No.
Yeah, I think you and Jan should sit down and give it a chance.
I think you...
And try to eat like mashed potatoes and gravy at the same time. What do you think of that, Tom?
I'm not playing.
Listen, I am completely dumbfounded.
He's getting pissed.
He's pissed off because Dr. Pimple Popper is number 1. Wait till you see the action figure.
We're just lucky that Dr. Pimple Popper's not part of the "We Love You in the Morning" thing, or we'd be number 2 behind Dr. Pimple Popper.
I don't think I could go against them.
I don't think we could compete.
No.
You know?
No.
Because I think if we sat around and popped our own pimples, it wouldn't. I don't think it would work as much. Are we making a caller sit through this? Good Lord! I know. Tom's detached himself from this show.
I'm not playing this part.
He's back in Florida. Hey,
Excuse me. You go and have your book club meeting. Hello.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Hey, what's up?
If there's ever a reason to watch Dr. Pimple Popper, it's because she's hot, she's got big boobs.
Is it a woman?
She is hot. Yeah, it's an Asian woman. She's hot. She's definitely hot. Now Tom's interested now.
No, he isn't.
But no, she's attractive. I don't know if I'd want to shake her hands, though.
Well, as long as she's wearing gloves, or you are.
Well, that's true.
She is hot.
No, she's hot.
Yeah.
My takeaway from the football game is it was pretty much, I hate to say it, the same thing as the Iowa State game. The better team did not win that game, but Iowa won because of turnovers, penalties, and drop passes.
I mean, I sort of agree with you, but that's just too easy and convenient to say for a Cyclone fan. No offense, because I think Washington State, if they played Iowa State 10 times, I think Washington State wins 5. I think they're. I think Iowa State's good. Don't get me wrong, but you can't just dismiss an 11-2 Washington State team that beat you and just say, well, we're better. We just self-destructed. And I don't think Mississippi State is that much better than Iowa because Mississippi State's offense sucks. Their quarterback's not very good. They can't throw the ball. So that's just my counter to what you're saying. I respect your opinion, but to me that's just too convenient.
Well, their quarterback is unidimensional. He's great runner, but a terrible passer.
And the receivers obviously aren't used to catching many of his passes because they dropped a bunch. When you drop passes, that's part of being a team, whether you're good or bad. And Washington State's not bad. I mean, Washington State's 11-2.
Excuse me. Well, yeah, they are 11-2. They had a great year. But a lot of that, Leach has had great seasons in his past.
Okay.
But their teams have not been good. Especially on the defensive end.
But they still won 11 games and beat Iowa State.
Look, Iowa State finished 8-5. Washington State finished 11-2, and Washington State beat Iowa State. I don't think you have a leg to stand on.
And I think Tom would be saying the same thing if it was Iowa.
Of course I would.
I mean, I just don't. I think you're just buying into your side, and I don't see it. And I do think that Iowa State and Washington State are very.
It was an excellent football game.
Yeah, I think
very evenly matched.
I think if Iowa State played them 10 times, they'd win 5. I think all 4 teams were very evenly matched. I do think that Mississippi State's defense is the best unit among all 4 of those teams if you put them together. But there's more to football than just having one good unit. And Mississippi State didn't have an answer for Iowa on offense. They just didn't have enough versatility. They just didn't have enough ways to score points. And as far as the Iowa State-Washington State game, Washington State found ways to make enough plays. Iowa State did hurt themselves, but I don't know. I just think that's a little just too easy to say. Just dismiss those other teams as being better. But it's all opinion. I get it.
Absolutely.
I get it. You got a right to your opinion.
And then as far as the basketball game last night, at what point total when Iowa got to would have been the point where Lick would have put his head in his hand?
Oh, the 14-3 run would have been the initial head in the hand. Then the 11-0 run in the second half, I think he would have put both heads in it. Then the late run there where they went up by 26, I think is when he would have started nodding and just completely – and he would have put Little Lick in.
That's no better than Lick Ladder basketball last night, folks.
It
isn't.
In fairness to Lick, but did you see the person who tweeted at us with the Little Lick Ladder highlight tape? Did you see that, Tom?
No, I didn't.
It had a picture of that underhand layup he made and a jump shot he made, and it basically was Little Lick, and he said it takes over the game.
It says, take that, KCJJ.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks. We appreciate it. We just agree to disagree.
Hey, before you go, are Montgomery or Butler, do you know if they're going to declare or not?
We lost
He's
him.
gone.
Hello?
That's too bad.
I really don't have time for this.
You got time, but
I guess
no explanation.
With all the people you guys know, was that like fake Aquaman or something?
I don't know what it was.
What was that, Tom?
I don't know what it was.
No idea.
It was poorly executed.
Very poorly.
Well,
executed.
I don't know. Is there a chance it was a bad connection, or was that Was that a statement?
I think that was. I think that was the soundtrack of Pimple.
And that was
it could be. Maybe that's what it was.
And what we heard was the pus leaving the body.
Could be. All right. I hope this is the Iowa State guy, and he has some solid information for us.
Sorry, boys, I got cut off right there at the end. But Tom, to your question, I hope they don't. Out of the two, I would see Montgomery declaring and not Butler, just for the simple fact Butler's still got some work to do as far as catching passes and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would agree with that, but I still think he made himself some money in the bowl. I think he goes in the top 3 if he goes. He's Plaxico Burress, a poor man's Plaxico Burress.
Well, or even the same style as Randy Moss, too.
Well, he's not near as fast as Randy Moss, not even comparable, but he's good, don't get me wrong.
He's very good.
Randy Moss was a freak of nature who ran as fast as cornerbacks. He was a 4.3 40 guy. But no, Hakeem Butler's very good. I think Iowa would like to have him.
You bet. Any time.
Yes.
But Montgomery, I hate to say it, but I think he's done everything he could do.
I agree.
At Iowa State.
And it's running back, man. Your body, if you're going to take that beating, you may as well be paid for it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, without question.
So we got 5 good players here in state we're waiting word on, and I think 4 of them are going at least. So we'll see.
The only sad thing is he'll end up on a crap team and get the crap beat out of him even more.
Well, you don't know. He may not go way high he could go to the Patriots. You imagine David Montgomery on the Patriots?
Oh.
That'd be a nice weapon if he's available. I don't think he goes in the first round. That's partly because he's a running back. Not many do go in the first round.
Well, yeah, I guess it just depends on how many other skill players and defensive players.
No, it does, but hardly any other running backs go in the first round anymore. It just doesn't happen. Saquon Barkley was a freak, and he had over 2,000 total yards this year. But it's not – running backs are the kind – you can get those guys off waivers. Sometimes it'll be as good as some guy coming – I mean, it's just a tough position that teams just don't value much anymore when it comes to the draft.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
It's true. With Iowa State bringing in their new dual-headed running back combo, it'll make for a tough spring if he decides to stick around.
Well, the two-headed dual thing will just have to wait their turn and have, they can contribute around him. But as much hype as there is with recruiting, the two-headed dual running backs aren't going to beat out David Montgomery if he stays. They'll have to just wait their turn.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if one of them redshirted. There's so much hype on recruits now that you kind of put them ahead of where they probably are in the real scheme of things just because of all the hype. I mean, I read so many recruiting gurus. This guy will definitely make an immediate impact. They don't know. They're just guessing. They don't know. Now, there's some that's obvious. A.J. Epinesa, I think Captain Steve could have said, this guy's going to come in. I mean, there's some that are really obvious, but some of these guys on the margin, you can't.
Stupid old Captain Steve.
Yeah, just stupid.
Even stupid Captain Steve.
I think you could have looked at A.J. Epinesa's tape, and I could see him playing next year.
Yeah.
There's some things that are obvious, but who knows? But, hey, thanks for calling back and filling us in. But, yeah, we got 5 players waiting to get to announce their future. And I say if all 5 of them go pro, more power to him. Hopefully nobody rips him.
This guy that I worked with for 25 years, gets so upset when it comes to the American public. Yeah, you can't even explain it. I never would have watched that, and I still never will. And I'll watch anything on TV.
Are we back to Pimple Popper? Why did I bring her up?
That's just astounding to me.
I didn't even know what.
So now you're pissed because of the American public embracing Pimple Popper.
Yes.
It's Wednesday night.
Do you think they have trouble selling ads for Pimple Popper?
Evidently not.
I would guess not.
It's number 1.
Probably brands like paper towels and stuff like that.
Okay.
Who knows? We done?
Clearasil.
Please say we're done.
Let's take this last call, but I bet
I can't. No, I got it.
We're turning calls away, Captain.
I know.
Caller, I'm sorry. Call back on Monday. It's not me. I have no say in what goes on here.
It's 11
Okay, we done?
11 o'clock, allhawkeyes.com.
From the Hertin and Stalker Studios in the heart of the Hawkeye Nation, this is the mighty 1630 KCJJ, Iowa City.
Hertin and Stalker Jewelers, making memories, making moments.
Now, Iowa City's news first.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Zoom Video Conferencing.
I'm Steve Kathan. A White House meeting is the next best chance to try to break the logjam that's caused a 2-week partial government shutdown. In the Senate, Democrat Chuck Schumer urged his Republican colleagues to think twice.
Don't let President Trump hold hostage all of these fine people who have done nothing wrong themselves.
White House correspondent Stephen Portnoy.
A slide presentation prepared for congressional leaders released by the White House depicts a border security and humanitarian crisis with double-digit surges in illegal drugs, unaccompanied minors, and family units caught entering the country this fiscal year. One slide, without offering any backup statistics, reads, staggering numbers of sick people are crossing the border each day. The White House has released the presentation to the public because it claims Democratic leaders didn't want to hear it earlier this week.
The government says employers added 312,000 jobs last month, a higher number than economists were expecting, and the unemployment rate rose just a bit to 3.9%.